Chapter 344. Staring at the three people in front of him, Lin Tian narrowed his eyes and took a step back. Thank the sect leader for his kindness, but there's no need. I can go on alone in this world, he said. Avoiding the three, he walked to the other side. A sword light slashed down. Muyang Feng blocked in front of him. The Wuji Peak Master's expression changed slightly. Muyang Feng, what are you doing? The sect leader has ordered that no one is allowed to touch him. Don't touch him? Muyang Feng said coldly. Do you think he'll be willing to go back with us if we don't touch him? In short, don't touch him. The Wuji Peak Master's face darkened. Lin Tianling glanced at Muyang Feng coldly. He spread out the yin and yang puppet and rushed into the distance. Peak Master Muyang coldly snorted and blocked the front again. He slapped down with his palm. Sect Master is too benevolent. With the three of us here, how can we not keep a little Sea of Consciousness realm cultivator? We can just suppress him and bring him back. There's no need to invite him. With a boom, a vast palm print descended, enveloping Lin Tian within it. Stop! The Wuji Peak Master's expression changed. He blocked Muyang Feng. Muyang Feng's hand shook. He bypassed the Wuji Peak Master and tried to capture Lin Tian again. Wuji Peak Master, you're too naive and childish. To be clear, he won't be willing to go back with us? There's absolutely no chance. Even if you kneel down and beg him, it's useless. I've already said that we can just suppress him and bring him back. It'll save us time and energy. The Wuji Peak Master frowned and paused slightly. With a swoosh, Muyang Feng avoided the Wuji Peak Master, and the handprint fell directly on Lin Tian. This wasn't an ordinary palm, but a powerful martial technique. Old thing! Lin Tian supported the barren heaven world, divine roar palace, and 9 spring sword to block the attack. With a boom, the giant handprint fell, slapping away the barren heaven realm, the divine roar palace, and the Jiuquan sword. At the same time, Lin Tian staggered backwards. He felt a tightness in his chest and blood gushed up to his throat. At the same time, his internal organs convulsed. Facing a powerhouse of the 9th heaven of the Zephyr realm, the current him was indeed too weak. Come with us obediently. Otherwise, we'll chop off your limbs and bring you back, Muyang Feng said coldly. The Wuji Peak Master frowned and his expression darkened. Master Muyang Feng, you are too reckless. Wuji Peak Master, please calm down. I feel that what Master Muyang Feng said makes sense. At this moment, the Peak Lord of Fallen Shadow Peak stepped forward and said in a deep voice. Based on this person's personality, no matter what we do, he won't follow us back to cultivate. As for that technique, therefore, it is best to suppress him and bring him back. No! The sect leader had given the order to not act recklessly. We can only use the word please, the Wuji Peak Master said. Boom! Right at this moment, Peak Master Mu Yang had already charged out again. He had actually executed the Tomb Fall Celestial Light Divine ability. Suddenly, a faint blue divine light appeared and pressed towards Lin Tian. This is enough to suppress him. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. The same technique, but when Muyang Feng used it, it was much stronger than Jing Ye's. He stepped on the yin and yang hua and retreated. With a light flick of his finger, the first layer of the 4 symbols Dao diagram flew out directly. The Dao diagram collided with the Tomb Fall Immortal Light, but this time, it was useless. In the blink of an eye, the Dao diagram of the 4 symbols Dao diagram shattered with a crack. Although the technique is extraordinary, it is a pity that you are too weak, Muyang Feng said. Lin Tian retreated again. He gritted his teeth and quickly formed a seal with his hands. Right now, you are only in the Sea of Consciousness realm. Facing me, what can you do? It is useless no matter what you do, Muyang Feng said. Lin Tian did not say anything. His expression did not change, but his hands moved even harder and faster. Hum! A stone platform and a stone wall rushed out from behind him. There were many black and white 3-leaf clovers on the edge of the stone platform. There was a line of ancient words engraved on the stone wall. Especially after the line of ancient words, the two seal scripts shone brightly, revealing the Tao benevolence, holy light. Suddenly, an extremely terrifying aura overflowed, causing the surrounding space to be oppressed. At this moment, he used the divining divine technique to derive the place where Heavenly Lord Tao benevolence comprehended the Tao. Suddenly, the Tao light overflowed. Qi! Muyang Feng's tomb fall immortal light trembled violently, and in the next moment, it was annihilated. Then, the terrifying aura pressed down, and suddenly, Muyang Feng was forced to retreat. This? Not far away, the Wuji Peak Master and Luoying Peak Master's expressions changed. A mere sea of consciousness 8th celestial layer cultivator had actually shattered the divine ability of a 9th celestial layer Zephyr cultivator and forced him to retreat. Such a thing had never happened in the history of cultivation. Cough. On the other side, Lin Tian spat out blood and flew back 10 feet away. He glanced coldly at Muyang Feng. Without stopping, he stepped on the yin-yang puppet and went away. You still want to leave? You can't leave, Muyang Feng said coldly. At this moment, Peak Master Mu Yang was both shocked and furious. He was an expert at the peak of the Zephyr realm, but he was actually dispelled by a little cultivator at the 8th level of the Sea of Consciousness and forced to retreat a few steps. This was simply a great humiliation. With a boom, an even more terrifying aura rushed out of his body. More dense tomb fall immortal light propped up, cracking the ground a little. Muyang Feng took a step forward and directly approached Lin Tian. Enough! Muyang Feng, you are too presumptuous! The Wuji Peak Master blocked in front. A strong wave of true essence rushed out. The Wuji Peak Master blocked Muyang Feng with a cold face. In the distance, Lin Tian looked back and instantly went away. In the next few days, he killed one powerful individual cultivator after another who came to steal the precious technique. He avoided the elders of the 9 great sects and broke free from the pursuers of the Bai family and the Shin family. Finally, he found an absolutely hidden place and hid. One against the world, very good. This way, it can stimulate my potential even more. There was blood at the corner of his mouth and on his body, but his face was extremely cold. Closing his eyes, he took out a bao dan and swallowed it. Then, he began to use the 4 extremities scripture to heal his injured body. Although Lin Tian had snuck down, there were still many people searching for him in the outside world. There were people from the ancient Bai clan, the alchemist Shin clan, the 10 great sects, and even some ordinary unaffiliated cultivators. However, none of these people could find any traces of Lin Tian. In the end, the experts from the Bai clan returned to their clans, the experts from the Shin clan returned to their clans, and the elders from the 10 great sects also returned to their clans. Wuji Gate, Wuji Hall. How dare you! The sect master of the Wuji sect stared at Muyang Feng with a cold face. Muyang Feng's face was slightly pale. He said, Sect master, how can we ask him to come back? Also, if he really found the divining divine skill, we must bring him back. If he doesn't want to come back, we can only do it. Shut up! I know you have a grudge against him because your disciple was suppressed, but I didn't expect you to be so reckless. I've already said that no one is allowed to do anything to him. We can only ask him to come back. The sect master of the Wuji sect stared at Muyang Feng and said coldly, Go back to your main peak. You are not allowed to step out of Muyang Feng for 3 months. Muyang Feng's face was ugly, but he did not dare to say anything. He could only leave resentfully. Seeing Muyang Feng leave, the sect master of the Wuji sect sighed and turned to look at the fallen celestial peak. Sect master, I'm sorry that I couldn't bring Lin Tian back. The sect master of the Wuji peak said. The sect master of the Wuji sect waved his hand. The technique he used that day was definitely the divining divine skill. Only this legendary battle saint technique can allow him to fight across 4 or 5 small realms. Rumor has it that the divining divine skill was created by Lord Daoran. Lord Daoran is a righteous person. If he can find this precious technique, it shows that his character and talent are excellent. If such a young man like him could stay in the sect and cultivate, he would definitely become a pillar of the sect. In the future, it would be extremely likely for my limitless immortal school to shine brightly and become stronger. Unfortunately, such an outstanding person like him was missed because of my mistake. Sect Master, you don't have to blame yourself. You didn't protect him for the past 2 times because of Wuji Gate. We can forget about the matter of the 9 great sects, but the ancient Bai family came to the sect to ask for him. What can you do? The peak master of the Wuji sect said. The sect master of the Wuji sect waved his hand and looked at the fallen immortal peak. He sighed slightly. A mistake is a mistake. He was right before. As the sect master of Wuji Gate, I didn't protect my disciple when I knew he didn't do anything wrong. Instead, I let people from other forces take him away. I'm not a qualified sect master. The peak master of the Wuji sect stood quietly on the side and followed the sect master's gaze. Techniques are important, but people are even more important. It doesn't matter if we can't obtain the heavens divination divine technique. This treasure technique has been silent in my limitless immortal school for so long, yet no one has been able to find it. This also means that this technique is not fated with my limitless immortal school. The sect master of the Wuji sect said with deep eyes. Pass down my order. From now on, no disciple of the Wuji sect is allowed to touch him. If possible, help him secretly when appropriate. Yes, sect master. The peak master of the Wuji sect nodded. The ancient Bai family, the door of a hall was pushed open. Bai Chiu, dressed in purple, barged in angrily. If you send more experts to deal with him, I'll die here. The aura of Yin surrounded Bai Chiu. Bai Chiu held a dagger and aimed it at her neck. There were 3 elders in the hall. When they saw this scene, they were all shocked. Little ancestor, what are you doing? Put the dagger away. It'll be terrible if you touch it. An old woman hurried forward. This old woman was very powerful. She was at the connecting immortal realm, but at this moment, she was anxious. Stop. Bai Chiu pointed at the old woman. During this period, she had received several pieces of news. The Bai family's experts were attacking Lin Tian, the 10 great sects experts were chasing after Lin Tian, and the alchemist family Shen family was attacking him. Bai Chiu had cried several times and finally came here. She knew that she was the main reason for all of this. How could she not be sad? Over and over again. How can you do this? How can you treat him like this? What's the difference between you and a hooligan? Bai Chiu glared at the 3 of them, tears welling up in her eyes. The 3 of them stopped in their tracks. Their expressions were somewhat ugly because they were indeed unreasonable in this matter. In the end, one of them gritted his teeth and said, Fine. We won't send any more experts to deal with him. However, he killed more than 30 members of our Bai family. I'm afraid we can't let this matter go so easily. Soon, the young experts of this generation of my Bai family will go out to train. This grudge will be settled by those of the same generation. Bai Chiu shook her head. No! He's only... At that moment, someone appeared beside Bai Chiu. Bai Ziki flashed and snatched the dagger from her hand. Then, Bai Ziki did not say anything and pulled Bai Chiu out. Let go of me! Bai Chiu shouted outside the hall. This result is more or less enough, Bai Ziki said. Big brother! Bai Chiu was anxious. There are a few people in our family who are not much weaker than you. How can he be a match for them? That's his problem. Bai Ziki frowned and said. Also, your lunar origin has been fluctuating too frequently and chaotically during this period. Don't cultivate for the time being. As he spoke, he did not give Bai Chiu a chance to react. He directly used the secret technique of the Divine Sutra and completely sealed Bai Chiu's true essence. Then, he dragged her into the depths of the Bai family. The alchemist family, the Shen family, the middle-aged man in green returned to the family, and summoned the other elders of the family. They were all above the 7th heaven of the levitating realm. How was it? One of them asked. That's right. He does have the legendary flame seal. However, it has completely disappeared. The middle-aged man in green said. Come to think of it, in the near future, all the major forces will send their disciples out to gain experience. My Shen family is no exception. another person said. After that, let the disciples out to train pay close attention to Lin Tian's movements. As you said, this person is not simple. He's very important to the Shin family. On this day, all the major factions were moved and made different responses. A few more days passed. Young talents walked out of their sects and families and walked toward the vast second heaven. In a hidden cave in the old forest, Lin Tian focused on cultivating. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. In half a month, relying on the divine refining runes, his cultivation had improved a lot. He was about to reach the peak of the eighth heaven of the Sea of Consciousness. Because of the continuous clashes with airborne realm experts, his combat ability and combat experience had improved a lot after digesting them. His overall combat strength had improved a lot compared to before. It's hard to improve in a short time. It's time to go out, he muttered to himself. I equals FIPS, LAS equals AGS. Chapter 345. Reading on mobile phone. After leaving the hidden cave in the old forest, Lin Tian put on a black robe that covered his entire body and face. Book.net. His current identity was very sensitive. Before his cultivation reached the Zephyr realm, it would be good for him to cover up a little. After walking out of the old forest, there was a wide road in front of him. Let's go. Those young talents are all gathered there. It should be quite lively. Of course. After all, it's hosted by the young talents of the Bai family. There are also geniuses from the other major sections. There were many cultivators on the road, and they were all heading in one direction. Lin Tian tilted his head and narrowed his eyes. That was the Daliao mountain forest. He stopped a cultivator and asked, Brother, are you all heading to the Daliao mountain forest? Is there something interesting going on? Seeing Lin Tian's black robe that covered even his face, the cultivator frowned slightly, but he didn't pay too much attention to it. After all, there were too many cultivators in the world, and some of them had strange habits. Not long ago, the young talents of the major sects came out to train. The Bai family initiated an alliance, and the 9 major sects responded. They all gathered in the Daliao mountain forest to find and suppress a person called Lin Tian. It's said that he has mastered the art of weapon manipulation. Most importantly, he offended the Bai family and the 9 major sects. I see. Lin Tian nodded, then asked, But why the 9 major sects? Aren't they the 10 major sects? That Lin Tian used to be a disciple of the Wuji Gate. It's said that the master of Wuji Gate gave an order to no longer interfere with Lin Tian's affairs, and forbade any disciples from taking action against Lin Tian. The cultivator said. Lin Tian nodded and thanked him. The cultivator quickly walked away and jogged toward the Daliao mountain forest. Under the black robe, Lin Tian's eyes flickered. Limitless Sect Master. When he was at Wuji Gate, he did not make any mistakes. However, the Limitless Sect leader did not protect him and allowed the outsiders to take him away. To be honest, even though he did not feel good about it, he did not blame the Limitless Sect leader. After all, he was in a certain position, and the Limitless Sect leader had to make a choice. Now, he had escaped from Wuji Gate with the divining divine technique, and the Limitless Sect master naturally knew about it. Under the situation where he had become the enemy of the entire world, the Limitless Sect master still gave such an order, which made him feel emotional. This could be considered a kind of magnanimity. Sighing slightly, he looked in the direction of the Daliao forest again, his eyes turning cold. Pausing for a moment, he strode toward the Daliao mountain forest. In the Daliao mountain forest, an old tree stood tall and strong. At this moment, many cultivators had gathered around and were discussing spiritedly. In front of them was an open space, and the ground was stained with blood. 3 young men in purple stood together. All of them were extremely handsome, and their clothes and faces were bright and fresh. They were surrounded by a group of people. They were from the Bai family. Lin Tian arrived. Wearing a black robe, he stared at the 3 of them and stood quietly in the crowd. Everyone, do you know who the blood and bones on the ground belong to? A person from the Bai family asked. That person was called by you. He was extremely powerful and was at the first level of the Zephyr flight. Of course. There's the blood of our elders, senior brothers, and junior brothers. They all died in the hands of that thief. How could we forget such a thing? A person from the 9 great sects said. That's right. Our senior brothers and elders were all killed by him. That thief is cruel and can't be left alive. We have to surround and kill him. Another person from the Bai family said. That person was called Baiheng. He was also at the first level of the Zephyr flight, and was very powerful. Kill him! We'll follow the orders of the 3 young masters of the Bai family. We have no objections. We'll definitely kill him! The people from the 9 great sects shouted. In fact, some powerful itinerant cultivators even joined in and formed several teams to chase after Lin Tian. The 3 people from the Bai family nodded. The last person to speak was called Bai Chiha. He said loudly. In that case, we'll join forces and suppress that thief. We'll avenge the seniors and clansmen who died in his hands. Only then can we let the seniors and clansmen who died in this forest rest in peace. Their souls will ascend to heaven. Avenge! 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 Everyone responded. In the crowd, Lin Tiantan smiled coldly. It had to be said that the 3 people from the Bai family chose this Daluo mountain forest, and used the blood and bones on the ground to incite the crowd. The effect was really good. Using this place and saying such words, it made it seem like he was really a heinous person. He was wrapped in a black robe, so his face couldn't be seen. He said, The 3 of you from the Bai family, the words avenge don't seem to be appropriate. As far as I know, it was your Bai family who chased after Lin Tian for no reason. The other sects and itinerant cultivators wanted to steal his precious technique, but they were killed instead. This seems to be your own fault. How can you talk about avenge? As soon as he said this, the crowd suddenly became quiet. Then, they all became angry. Who are you? What nonsense are you talking about? You're speaking for that thief? You're talking nonsense! Someone reprimanded. Nonsense? Under the black robe, Lin Tianyi smiled and said, Why don't you gather here to suppress that person? Don't you want to steal his weapon-controlling technique? Also, you itinerant cultivators, what grudge do you have against Lin Tian? If you don't covet that precious technique, why would you gather here to deal with Lin Tian? The people from the 9 sects were angry and stared at Lin Tian. Some itinerant cultivators' faces were ashen. We gathered here for the sake of righteousness. How can we be humiliated by you? Righteousness? Lin Tian mocked. You're really noble. In the Daluo mountain forest, some people who came to watch the show had strange expressions as they stared at the black-robed Lin Tian. Who's this guy? The Bai family initiated this alliance, and the 9 sects and itinerant cultivators responded to deal with Lin Tian together. This guy actually said something here. Isn't he asking for a rebuff? Many people were discussing. Bai Yu raised his hand and suppressed the crowd's voices. He looked over and said, Friend, you must have evidence to back up your words. Lin Tian once flirted with the princess of my Bai clan. Moreover, he even killed a few geniuses from the 9 great sects before this. There are many blood debts on his body, which is why my Bai clan and the 9 great sects are hunting him down. How could we possibly covet his treasured technique? That's right. You're right, young Master Bai Yu. How can such a pervert be allowed to live? Many people shouted. Under the black robe, Lin Tian sneered. Young Master Bai, why are you so different from what I've heard? As far as I know, Lin Tian never flirted with the princess of your family. On the contrary, it was your princess who always clung to him. As for your so-called killing of several talents of the 9 sects, it seems that those talents wanted to kill your princess, and Lin Tian to steal the precious technique. That's why Lin Tian counterattacked and killed those people. Speaking of which, Lin Tian can be considered as protecting your princess, right? As soon as Lin Tian said that, Bai Yu and the rest of the 9 sects' expressions changed slightly. Their expressions froze. Is there such a thing? The 9 sects once wanted to kill the princess of the Bai family, and Lin Tian stood up to protect her. Now, the Bai family and the 9 sects are working together to deal with Lin Tian. If this is true, it's really a little outside the circle. Many people were surprised. If this was true, wouldn't it be a little ridiculous for the Bai family and the 9 sects to work together to deal with Lin Tian? It could even be called a joke. Nonsense. My friend, hearsay can't be trusted after all. What you said is not acceptable. A voice sounded, and someone stood out. Seeing this person, Baiyu smiled faintly and nodded. So it's Brother Xingyi from Wuji Gate. Master Baiyu. Xingyi returned the greeting. Hearing Xingye's words, the crowd all turned their heads to look at Lin Tian, who was covered in a black robe. These people were not interested in the precious technique. They just came here to watch the fun. Now that they heard several different voices, it naturally aroused their curiosity. Under the black robe, Lin Tian now said, Xingyi from Wuji Gate, everyone in the world knows that the master of Wuji Gate has ordered that no one is allowed to attack Lin Tian. As a disciple of the Limitless Sect, you came here. Isn't that a blatant violation of the master's order? Not to mention the punishment from the master later, isn't it a little disgraceful for you to do this? Yes. Didn't the master of the Limitless Sect order that no one is allowed to attack Lin Tian? This Xingyi, this. Some people pointed at him. Xingye's expression did not change. He said, The master is generous and benevolent. Considering that the thief used to cultivate in the sect, he did not argue with him. However, if such a thief lives, it will be a disgrace to our Wuji Gate. The master is kind, but there will be people in the sect who will care. I came here on the order of my master. After killing this thief, I will go back to the sect to apologize. I have no regrets. So he came here on the master's order. In that case, this Xingyi can't be considered to have committed treason. Yes, that's right. Some people nodded. Under the black robe, Lin Tianling smiled. On the master's order? It was Muyang Feng, that old thing again. Xingyi opened his mouth again and looked at the crowd. What Master Baiyu said is true. In the sect, Lin Tian was arrogant and domineering. He bullied and humiliated his fellow disciples. He even forcefully held the hand of the princess of the Bai family several times and openly flirted with her. In order to fight for the Baodan, that thief ruthlessly killed several outstanding disciples of the 9 sections. These are indisputable facts. Hearing this, the crowd was in an uproar again. Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning when you talk nonsense with your eyes wide open? Under the black robe, Lin Tian laughed out loud. What I said is not a lie. How can I talk nonsense with my eyes wide open? Xingyi stared at Lin Tian coldly and said, You just heard it and believed it. I am a disciple of the Wuji Gate. I was Lin Tian's fellow disciple. You heard about him. Do you think you know more about him than I do? Well, indeed, Xingyi was Lin Tian's fellow disciple. What he said is indeed more convincing. If that's the case, then that Lin Tian really is. Some people frowned. The 3 people of the Bai family smiled at Xingyi. Xingyi returned the gesture. What else do you have to say? Xingyi looked at Lin Tian, who was wearing a black robe. Under the black robe, Lin Tian now said, Do you think you and Lin Tian used to be fellow disciples, so you know most about him? Xingye's expression was indifferent. At least in this place, no one knows more about him than I do. Is that so? Lin Tianling smiled and said sarcastically, Then open your dog eyes and look carefully. Let's see who knows more about Lin Tian here, you or me. As he spoke, he lifted the black robe and revealed his true face. I equals Phipps, last equals AGS. Chapter 346. Reading on a mobile phone. Seeing Lin Tian's face under the black robe, Xingye's expression changed drastically. It's you! At the same time, everyone else was shocked. Is that Lin Tian? He actually came here. The onlookers' expressions changed. The Bai family had organized this alliance and gathered all the experts of the same generation to deal with Lin Tian. But now, the main character had come here alone. This caused all the cultivators who had come to watch the show to be shocked. Wasn't this too daring? With a series of rustling sounds, the 9 sects and the 3 people of the Bai family all moved and surrounded Lin Tian. How dare you come here? The 3 people of the Bai family sneered. The world is so big. How many places do I dare not go? Aren't you looking for me? I'll come to you myself. Lin Tian's expression was calm, and he didn't care about the 3 people of the Bai family at all. He stared at Xingyi mockingly. Tell me, between the 2 of us, who knows more about Lin Tian, you or I know more about Lin Tian? Xingye's face was gloomy, and he couldn't say anything. Muyang Feng's disciples thought they were invincible and came to make trouble for me. After they were defeated, I bullied my fellow disciples. The princess of the Bai family often came to me, and I flirted with her? Are you blind or can't you see clearly? Did I kill a few disciples of the 9 sects in order to seize the treasure? When the elders of the 9 sects came to make trouble for me, the princess of the Bai family showed them the divine token and told them the details. Don't you know that the elders of the 9 sects knelt down and begged for my forgiveness? Staring at Xingyi, Lin Tian spoke calmly, but his eyes were sharp. What? The elders of the 9 sects knelt down and begged for Lin Tian's forgiveness? It sounds like the princess of the Bai family is close to Lin Tian, isn't she? How could the people of the Bai family? The crowd discussed animatedly. Nonsense! A disciple from the 9 great sects opened his mouth and shouted angrily. Who do you think you are? How dare you humiliate the elders of our great sects? Our cultivation is profound. Why would we kneel before a nobody like you? Lin Tian tilted his head and stared at this person. He directly waved his sword. With a poof, blood splattered everywhere. The disciple's chest was penetrated and he fell into a pool of blood on the spot. Hiss! Many of the onlookers sucked in a breath of cold air. This, in the middle of a group of powerful enemies, he actually dared to directly kill. Why kneel? Because it makes sense, and because the princess of the Bai family is on my side. Lin Tian mockingly glanced at the cultivators of the 9 great sects and the rogue cultivators who had gathered to fight against him. What are you when facing the Bai family? What kind of attitude could he have? At most, it thinks of itself as a dog. Other than wagging its tail to please, what else can it do? You! Instantly, everyone was enraged. Nonsense! Trying to sow discord. What kind of status does the princess of my clan have? How could she possibly stand on your side? Why would I protect you? Bai Yu shouted. Lin Tian smiled disdainfully and looked at Xingyi. Senior brother Zheng, tell me, is what I said true or false? He enunciated the words, Senior brother Zheng, particularly loudly, causing Xingye's face to turn a little pale. The crowd stared at Xingye's expression, and all of them were moved. It seems that Lin Tian is telling the truth. Someone muttered. These people were not stupid. From Lin Tian's attitude and Xingye's expression, it was enough to tell who was telling the truth. A cold light flashed in Bai Heng's eyes. There's no need to say anything more to this thief. Everyone, attack and suppress him together. That's right. There's no need to talk nonsense with this evil thief. Kill him. Attack. Attack together. Everyone shouted. Instantly, everyone pressed down on Lin Tian. The light of martial arts swept across all directions. There were more than 200 people gathered here. At this moment, more than 100 of them attacked together. The power was truly terrifying. Lin Tianling smiled, not caring at all. How dare you bunch of third-rate trash gather here and try to kill me? With a clang, a high-grade supreme treasure appeared in his hand. The 7th sword of the 9 forms of the burning sun swept out and swept in all directions. Puff! 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 Blood splattered. In the blink of an eye, a large number of cultivators died. Oh my God! The power of one sword can be so powerful. So powerful. Some of the onlookers' hearts palpitated. Lin Tian's expression was indifferent. He walked calmly toward Xingyi. The Limitless Sect Master has ordered that no one in the sect is allowed to attack me. You and your master are really active. When he let you out to die, did he ask you to leave any last words? Xingye's face was pale. He gritted his teeth and said, Lin Tian, don't be too arrogant. You're just in the sea of consciousness realm. With a boom, a faint blue light rushed up. At this moment, Xingyi directly used Miang Feng's Tomb Fall Immortal Light Theurgy. When I was in the 6th level of the Sea of Consciousness realm, you were no match for me. Now, what can you do with this theurgy? Lin Tianling smiled. He bent his finger and flicked it. The 4 symbols Dao diagram gathered and directly annihilated all of Xingye's theurgy light. Then, he stepped on the yin and yang rock and moved in front of Xingyi in an instant. You! Bang! Lin Tian swung his fist and directly sent Xingyi flying. Xingye's chest caved in on the spot, and he let out a scream. Brother Zheng! Bai Yu's expression changed. He stepped forward and waved a big handprint to press down on Lin Tian. It was the godless palm of the Godless Sutra. Boom! The godless palm swung down, and the entire space shook. They were both in the 1st level of the Zephyr realm, but it had to be said that Bai Yu's strength was several times stronger than Xingye's. He was even stronger than some cultivators in the 2nd level of the Zephyr realm. When this palm pressed down, many onlookers were shocked. Lin Tian stepped back and used the divination divine technique. He activated the same godless palm, and a series of handprints directly slapped forward. This is the godless palm? How is it possible? How can he also use the godless palm? Isn't this the Bai family's secret technique? This? Many people's expressions changed. Lin Tian's godless palm collided with Bai Yu's godless palm. With a boom, the space shook violently. Damn it! Where did you learn the godless palm? The 3 Bai family members were shocked and angry. The 3 of them used their movement techniques and directly rushed toward Lin Tian. Get out of here! I'll deal with you later, Lin Tianling said. With a boom, he activated the 8th sword of the burning sun and directly forced the 3 of them to retreat. After that, he stepped forward and appeared in front of Xingyi again. I'll send you on your way, he said coldly, using the divination divine technique to create the barren heaven realm and mercilessly press down. Xingye's expression changed drastically. He had seen the power of this king's territory before, so he immediately activated the heavenly light divine ability with all his strength. However, such a divine ability could not block the divination divine technique. Pfft! Xingyi coughed out blood and flew more than 10 meters away. Half of his body was badly mutilated. Lin Tian raised his leg and approached again. With a thought, the barren heaven realm directly pressed down. The ancient mountain fell, and the roar of wild beasts came from it, which immediately made Xingye's expression change. No! Stop! Don't worry, you won't be lonely on the road to the netherworld. It won't be long before I send your master down to accompany you. Lin Tianling. The barren heaven realm mercilessly pressed down, directly crushing Xingyi into pieces. Xingyi of the Wuji Gate, an early-stage void flight realm cultivator, was killed so easily? This, oh my god, what kind of combat power is this? He's only at the spiritual sense level. This is too unbelievable. Many cultivators were shocked. Seeing this scene, the young people of the 9 sects who were gathered here also changed their expressions. Everyone, let's attack together. Don't let him defeat us one by one, Bai Yu shouted. That's right. Although he's powerful, we have more people. If we work together, we can defeat him. Kill! Everyone roared. Instantly, saber lights and sword shadows appeared as the 200+ people charged towards Lin Tian in unison. Do you really think that ants can kill an elephant? Lin Tianling smiled. With a clang, dozens of treasure weapons appeared around him, all of them flying and slashing in all directions. Weapon control technique. Pft. 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 The disciples of the 9 sects gathered here were almost all at the 6th to 9th level of the spiritual sense level. How could they resist Lin Tian's weapon control technique? In the blink of an eye, a large number of cultivators fell into a pool of blood. More than 200 people were killed in a few seconds, and the ground was dyed red with blood. How could this be? We can't win this. It's impossible to win. If this goes on, we'll all be killed. Everyone was terrified. In the next moment, some rogue cultivators retreated and fled into the distance. Clang! A sword radiance fell and cut off that person's head. Lin Tian used his weapon control technique. Dozens of treasure weapons appeared in the air and surrounded the remaining people. Since you're gathered here to kill me, you should show some respect. What's the point of running away now? He said indifferently. As soon as he finished speaking, he used the divination divine skill to shake the barren heaven realm. Gray mist sputtered in all directions. Pft! 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 Blood mist exploded. Facing the barren heaven realm that he created with the divination divine skill, these ordinary cultivators were no match for him. Fellow cultivator Lin, we were wrong. Please let us go. We were blinded by greed and wanted to fight for the treasure skills. We won't do it again. Please forgive us. Fellow cultivator Lin, please be merciful. Please don't kill us. Some rogue cultivators begged for mercy. Lin Tianling smiled. The barren heaven realm shook again, and more killing light fell. These people did not have the slightest grudge against him, yet they gathered together to kill him and steal his precious technique. Thus, how could he show them any mercy? Those who wanted to kill would always be killed. This was his philosophy. He would never be a saint for nothing. Pft! 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 Blood mist exploded again and again, falling to the ground. Lin Tian attacked mercilessly. Wherever the light of the barren heaven realm passed, no one could stop it. Anyone who was touched by it would die a tragic death. During this time, screams continued. More and more people fled. Some disciples of the large sects even ran away in fear. Unfortunately, none of them succeeded. They were all killed by the dozens of treasure weapons floating in the air. No, don't kill me! Lin Tian, you're a demon! No! Screams rose and fell. Blood splattered again and again. The number of corpses increased. In the distance, many onlookers were terrified. Some even couldn't help but tremble. This scene was like purgatory. Soon, 15 minutes passed. The screams finally weakened and then disappeared completely. Looking around, dozens of treasure weapons were floating in the air. The ground was full of broken corpses. Blood dyed the ground red. It was a glaring and shocking sight. More than 100 disciples of the large sects and nearly 100 rogue cultivators, all dead. Only the 3 from the Bai family are left. So many people gathered together, but none of them could stop him. It's only been 15 minutes. In the distance, many onlookers retreated. They felt like their hearts were about to jump out. In the forest, Lin Tian's clothes were not stained with blood. He looked at Bai Yu and the others. Now it's your turn. There are some things I want to know from you. I equals FIPS, LAS equals AGS. Chapter 347. Reading on a mobile phone. Facing Lin Tiantan's cold gaze, Bai Yu and the other 2 couldn't help but tremble. Their faces were ashen and ugly. Please search Taste Bookia Network to see the most complete. In the novel, they had gathered all the major sects here in the name of the Bai family to search for and kill Lin Tian. Now, the real person had found them and killed all of them in just a few minutes. Blood flowed all over the ground. This made their backs turn cold. This was a devil. Let's go, Bai Yu said in a low voice. The 3 of them knew that they were no match for Lin Tian, so they didn't stay to fight. They turned and fled. Lin Tian's expression was calm. The precious weapons in the air slashed down, forcing the 3 of them to retreat. The Bai family has been passed down since the ancient times. Do you only know how to run? He said indifferently. The 3 of them were furious. Bai Heng said in a low voice. Lin Tian, don't be so smug. The truly powerful people of the Bai family haven't come out yet. When they come out, killing you will be as easy as crushing an ant. Is that so? I'll wait. Lin Tian now. With a clang, the three precious weapons slashed down. They shone brightly and cut off Bai Heng's head. Seeing this bloody scene, a group of onlookers nearby felt as if ice had formed on their backs. That's the Bai family, a transcendent force that has been passed down since the ancient times. They've looked down on this heavenly region for so many years. He killed the Bai family's elites without hesitation. This is crazy. Someone's heart palpitated. Bai Yu and Bai Chiha gritted their teeth. Their clansmen were killed. The two of them roared in unison and used their secret skills. Kill! Kill! The two of them roared. They knew that they couldn't escape, so they pressed their palms toward Lin Tian and fought to the death. Lin Tian shook his head. The barren heaven world passed over his head, crushing their palms and crushing Bai Chiha into pieces. In the blink of an eye, only Bai Yu was left of the three. Damn it! There was blood in Bai Yu's mouth. He stared at Lin Tian in shock and anger. Lin Tian raised his hand, using divining divine art to evolve a supreme divine palm, directly slapping Bai Yu to the ground. Your Bai clan is such a large clan, so you should have a lot of strongholds in the outside world. Where are they? He asked. Bai Yu was shocked. What do you want to do? I don't like to be passive. Your Bai family has tried to kill me time and time again for no reason. I have to give you a little surprise. Otherwise, your Bai family will really think that I'm easy to bully. You want to break into my Bai family's outpost? Bai Yu sneered. With a slap, Lin Tian slapped Bai Yu. Put away your sneer and stop talking nonsense. Blood flowed from the corner of Bai Yu's mouth as he glared hatefully at Lin Tian. He named 3 places: Vast Heaven District, Hangzhou Origin, and Yan'an Square. So straightforward? Lin Tian narrowed his eyes. Bai Yu stared at Lin Tian with a strange and livid expression. Doesn't everyone know that the Bai family has strongholds in these 3 places? Doesn't he know? That's strange. Not far away, many people stared at Lin Tian in surprise. Lin Tian naturally heard these people's discussions. He was slightly embarrassed. He came from the first layer of the celestial realm, so he didn't know much about these things. This made him slightly displeased, but he didn't say anything and directly killed Bai Yu. He stood up and clapped his hands. He stared at the crowd of onlookers in the distance, and walked toward them. Swoosh! All of a sudden, the crowd dispersed in unison. Lin Tian stepped on the yin-yang puppet and caught up with a person, grabbing his shoulder. This was a young man in yellow. His face was pale with fear, and his whole body was trembling. Big brother! Spare me! I'm just here to watch the show. I don't want to steal your paragon skill, let alone kill you. You can't kill innocent people! Lin Tian was speechless. I just want to ask about the Vast Heaven District, Hangzhou Origin, and Yan'an Square. I mean no harm, he said. Really? Really? Only then did the young man in yellow let out a sigh of relief. However, he was still a little fearful as he said, Vast Heaven District, Hangzhou Origin, and Yan'an Square, these 3 places are the most famous gathering places of cultivators in this heaven region. There are treasure auction sites, transaction pavilions, and even some wine pavilions where beautiful fairies are hidden. There are people from various great sects and sacred grounds who are overseeing these 3 places. They set up different transaction pavilions, either to collect wealth and resources, or to collect all kinds of information. These 3 places have strongholds of the Bai family. What's the cultivation level of the strongest person in these 3 places? Lin Tian asked. The peak of the Zephyr Realm. The peak of the Zephyr Realm. Lin Tian whispered and nodded to the young man in yellow. Thank you. With that, he turned and walked away, disappearing quickly. Only now did the yellow-clothed young man completely heave a sigh of relief, and then he went limp like mud. In the distance, some onlookers did not go far. At this moment, they stared at Lin Tian's retreating figure and the bloody scene in front of them. Their hearts were palpitating. This is really... Many people swallowed their saliva. Soon after, news spread. By family's young generations, 3 heroes gathered the 9 great sex experts and a group of loose cultivators, wishing to find and kill Lin Tian. However, the main character directly found them, slaughtering everyone. This made even more cultivators shocked. By family's heroes organized a gathering to search for a single person, yet the main character actually found them, killing everyone? There were some who were suspicious, personally heading to Great Immortal Mountain Range. However, they directly sucked in a cold breath of air. It's actually true. That guy is too ruthless. He killed more than 200 people, including the 3 heroes of the Bai family. He didn't show any mercy at all. Everyone was shocked. Then, the young experts of the Bai family rushed to the Daluo mountain range. When they saw the corpses of Bai Yu and the other 2, their faces turned cold and murderous. "Find him and kill him!" someone shouted. It sounded like the clanging of a precious weapon. The itinerant cultivators and disciples of small sects who came to watch were shocked. After leaving the Daluo mountain range, Lin Tian walked far away and entered another mountain range. The peak of the Zephyr realm. I'm definitely no match for him now. I'll try that thing. It should work wonders, he muttered to himself. After finding a secluded place, he took out a black cauldron and began to cultivate his alchemy skills. There was a kind of pill in the pharmacopoeia called the energy sealing pill. After shattering one's true origin, it could be vaporized. It was colorless and tasteless, and it could be easily mixed with air and inhaled. Once it was inhaled, it would cause the true origin to become chaotic and even solidify for a certain period of time. When facing an enemy in such a situation, the result could be imagined. The energy sealing pill can only be refined when one is at least a 3rd-grade alchemist. I should be able to reach that level in 7 days, Lin Tian muttered to himself. His cultivation was not weak, and he was about to reach the airborne realm. Moreover, his formation control technique was about to reach the 5th grade. As such, his starting point for alchemy was far higher than that of ordinary alchemists. It was like someone in the chaotic realm learning a profound martial technique. It would not take much time at all, and he could do it with a wave of his hand. After taking out the black cauldron and taking a deep breath, Lin Tian began to refine his alchemy skills. There was no such thing as the Tianyi soul technique on the path of alchemy. It was completely dependent on one's talent, and countless refinements to become familiar with it. Before leaving the Wuji Gate, Lin Tian had exchanged a lot of materials for alchemy and formation control technique. Therefore, he was not worried about running out of materials. Voom! He raised his right hand and placed it on the furnace. His true origin surged, and soon, a yellow alchemy fire appeared on the furnace. Yellow alchemy fire was the lowest level of alchemy fire, and it was the 1st stage. Lin Tianyi converted his true origin into alchemy fire while circulating the 4 extremes scripture to restore his true origin. He repeatedly practiced alchemy. This kind of practice was undeniably boring. However, Lin Tian did not find it boring, because this kind of practice was useful to him. The alchemy fire lingered, and day alternated. Soon, 6 days passed. Lin Tian sat in front of the black cauldron and stretched out his right hand again. His true origin surged, and a purple flame appeared in the cauldron. Purple alchemy fire, the 2nd stage of alchemy fire. During the 6 days, Lin Tian rested for a total of 12 hours. The rest of the time was spent on alchemy. After these 6 days, he finally reached the level of a 3rd-grade alchemist. Under the surging of his true origin, he could activate a purple alchemy fire. Time to refine the energy sealing pill, he muttered to himself. The energy sealing pill was a 4th-grade inferior Baodan. Originally, one needed to reach the level of a 4th-grade alchemist to refine a perfect pill. However, Lin Tian had absolute confidence in his control. He had reached the level of a 3rd-grade alchemist. Although it was impossible for him to refine a perfect energy sealing pill, he could rely on quantity to stack it up. Without further ado, Lin Tian took out the alchemy materials from the stone ring, activated the purple alchemy fire, and began to refine the energy sealing pill. Buzz! The purple alchemy fire lingered, It was somewhat gorgeous and somewhat magical. In the blink of an eye, another 3 days passed. During these 3 days, Lin Tian failed several times at first. It was not until later that he slowly grasped the technique. The purple alchemy fire was neither hot nor hot, and it changed at a fixed point that he successfully refined the energy sealing pill. Of course, the vitality sealing pill he concocted was far from perfect. Therefore, he used up all the ingredients he had and concocted a total of 30 vitality sealing pills. He refined the 30 energy sealing pills a total of 14 times. At most, he could refine 3 pills each time. Occasionally, he could only refine 1. 3 days later, Lin Tian rested for 6 hours and finally stood up. It's time! A glimmer of light flashed across his eyes, and he walked into the distance. 10 days ago, Bai Yu and the other 2 held a gathering and invited experts to kill Lin Tian. In the end, the main culprit came to their door and killed everyone. This made the younger generation of the Bai family furious. They searched everywhere for Lin Tian. Unfortunately, 10 days passed in the blink of an eye, and no one could find any trace of Lin Tian. It was as if Lin Tian had completely disappeared. That thief, where is he hiding? Does he only know how to hide in the world? Continue searching. I don't believe that he can hide forever. The younger generation of the Bai family had cold eyes. On this day, Lin Tian wore a gray robe and covered his face. He came to a bustling place. There were cultivators coming and going, and all of them were dressed in bright clothes. Vast Heaven District, Lin Tian muttered to himself. Chapter 348. Reading on a Mobile Phone. The Grand Heaven District was one of the most famous gathering places for cultivators in the second celestial realm. There were various auction houses and treasure trading pavilions. Cultivators could go there, and as long as they could afford it, they could usually find what they wanted. Please search Product and Book Yen Network to see the most complete. At the same time, there were also Jiokei Immortal Pavilions, which allowed cultivators to relax. There were many beautiful fairies and refreshing nectar inside. Some powerful cultivators would often visit these Jiokei Immortal Pavilions. Lin Tian walked into the vast Heaven District with his gray robe on his back. There were many cultivators coming and going. Soon, he stopped in front of a palace. This palace was dazzling and majestic. It was a stronghold set up by the Bai family in the vast Heaven District. It was responsible for collecting all kinds of bowed and weapons for the family at a low price. At the same time, it also sold some rare treasures. Because it was set up by the ancient Bai family, many cultivators came and went every day. There were no guards outside the door. Lin Tian walked in calmly. Inside the palace, there were many cultivators lined up in several lines. There were many tables and chairs placed around for the cultivators who came to trade to rest. Lin Tian was in a line. In his robe, thumb-sized pills appeared in his right hand. He hid them in his sleeve and crushed them one by one with his true essence. They turned into gas and quickly merged into the air. Time passed quickly. Soon, 15 minutes had passed. Soon, the cultivators in front finished their trades. It was Lin Tian's turn. "Excuse me, what do you need?" A middle-aged man from the Bai family asked in front of the counter. Seeing Lin Tian under his robe, the middle-aged man did not have any reaction. After all, he had seen many people like this. "I want to see the person in charge here." Lin Tian now. The middle-aged man frowned. "What do you want?" "It's the same if you tell me. I have Lin Tian's tracks. I need to talk to the person in charge here. I'll stay for 15 minutes at most." Lin Tian now. The middle-aged man's expression changed. He said in a low voice, "Wait a moment." With that said, the middle-aged man quickly walked toward the cabinet. A few days ago, the 3 great figures of the Bai family had personally given the order to kill Lin Tian. Afterwards, many of the Bai family's clansmen had died at the hands of Lin Tian. This caused the Bai family to be even more furious. Now, all of the Bai family's experts outside wanted to kill Lin Tian with their own hands. Unfortunately, they had lost track of Lin Tian. Now that someone had brought Lin Tian's tracks here, it was naturally important. After roughly 10 breaths of time, the middle-aged man returned, an elder following behind him. His complexion was rosy, and his aura was extremely powerful. "My friend, do you have traces of Lin Tian?" Bai Mingxu was dealing with some matters in the inner chamber. When he heard the middle-aged man mention that someone had brought news about Lin Tian, he immediately put down what he was doing and followed the middle-aged man out. Killing Lin Tian was an order given by the three great figures of the direct line of descent, so it was obvious how important it was. Bai Mingxu naturally wouldn't neglect it. Lin Tian looked at Bai Mingxu. "Are you the one in charge here?" "Yes," Bai Mingxu said. "You have the strongest cultivation in this place?" Lin Tian continued. Bai Mingxu frowned and said, "Yes." After a pause, Bai Mingxu said in a deep voice, "My friend, do you really have traces of Lin Tian? If it's true, please tell us. My Bai family will naturally give you a suitable price that will definitely satisfy you." "A suitable price?" "Of course, the heads of all the Bai family members in your stronghold should be quite suitable," Lin Tian said. As soon as these words came out, the faces of Bai Mingxu and the middle-aged man beside him immediately darkened. "You tricked us!" Bai Mingxiu's face suddenly turned cold. "Of course not." Lin Tian laughed, lifted his gray robe, and revealed his true appearance. "Look, do I look like I'm tricking you?" Bai Mingxiu and the middle-aged man's expressions immediately changed. "It's you! You're quite bold. You're just as the rumors say," Bai Mingxiu said coldly. At this time, the other cultivators in the hall also recognized Lin Tian. Suddenly, their expressions all changed. "It's really that Lin Tian! The younger generation of the Bai family is hunting him everywhere, searching for his whereabouts. He actually came here? Isn't he courting death?" Everyone stared at him. This place was a small stronghold set up by the ancient Bai family outside. There were many experts living here, and the weakest was at the 8th heavenly layer of the Sea of Consciousness. The leader was even at the peak of the Zephyr realm. At this moment, Lin Tian came here alone. This made most of the cultivators here dumbfounded and almost petrified on the spot. How could there be such a stupid and arrogant person? Swoosh! 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 Figures in the hall swayed, and soon, dozens of experts surrounded Lin Tian. These people were all powerful clansmen of the Bai family placed here. There were a total of 37 of them. Among them, 10 were at the Zephyr realm, and 27 were at the Sea of Consciousness realm. All of them were very energetic, and it was obvious that they were very powerful. "Friends, please do what you were doing before. Don't worry, my Bai family will soon suppress this thief," Bai Mingxu said. As the leader of a small stronghold of the ancient Bai family, Bai Mingxu was full of confidence. As soon as he finished speaking, a Bai family expert rushed toward Lin Tian. He was at the peak of the Sea of Consciousness realm. Lin Tian raised his hand, directly slapping this person until he was blasted into pieces, dyeing the palace's floor red. Smashing a peak Sea of Consciousness realm cultivator with one palm? What kind of physical body is this? Is he the reincarnation of a dragon? What a terrifying physique! Someone's heart palpitated. At this moment, Lin Tian waved his hand, and a gust of sword wind swept past, completely closing the door of the Bai family's hall. Facing the people of the Bai family, he was very calm, and strong. "Friends, please do what you were doing before. Don't worry, I'm only here to target the people of the Bai family. Those who have nothing to do with the Bai family, just watch quietly." Hearing these words, the cultivators were stunned. They only felt that Lin Tian had gone crazy. He barged into the Bai family's stronghold alone, facing dozens of Bai family experts, and facing a peak Zephyr realm expert, and said such words? Even if these people had seen Lin Tian's powerful physical body, they still felt that Lin Tian was too arrogant when they heard what he said. "Cut him down, you ignorant brat!" Bai Mingxu laughed out of anger. As soon as he finished speaking, the cultivators of the Bai family around him pressed down on Lin Tian. However, in the next moment, someone's expression changed and he exclaimed, "What's going on? Where's my vital essence? I can't move. Me too. Damn it, I can't use my martial skills, let alone my divine abilities. What happened? The expressions of the Bai family members changed. Bai Mingxu was moved. With a thought, a faint light appeared on the surface of his body, and then his expression changed. At this moment, his vital essence could flow, but it was extremely chaotic. He couldn't use his divine abilities or martial skills. At the same time, the other cultivators exclaimed. Almost everyone felt that their vital essence had frozen. What's going on? Someone panicked. Bai Mingxu stared at Lin Tian with a pale face. It's you! What did you do? There's no need to tell you what I did. Lin Tianyi smiled and a treasure sword appeared in his hand. He turned to look at the others. Everyone, please stay where you are and don't move. Just watch quietly. I'm only here to kill the people of the Bai family. However, if any one of you dares to move, don't blame my sword for being blind. The cultivators' expressions changed immediately. During this period of time, the outside world had heard that Lin Tian had killed hundreds of people, whether they were from the 10 major sects, powerful itinerant cultivators, or members of the ancient families. People had died in Lin Tian's hands. He had never shown mercy to anyone. At this moment, the cultivator's vital essence had frozen. After hearing Lin Tian's words, no one dared to move. That's right. Lin Tian squinted his eyes and smiled. He tilted his head and looked at the dozens of powerful cultivators of the Bai family. He raised his long sword and slashed without hesitation. You, poof! 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 Blood splashed. Immediately, a few powerful cultivators of the Bai family at the 9th level of the spiritual sea fell into a pool of blood. After arriving here, Lin Tian secretly used his vital essence to shatter 10 Baodan pills. After shattering the pills with his vital essence, they would turn into gas. They were colorless and odorless. They would fuse with the air and maintain the effect of the pills for 15 minutes. In this 15 minutes, any cultivator below the immortal ascension realm who breathed in this air would have their vital essence in chaos. They would even be temporarily frozen and lose their combat ability. At this moment, everyone in the hall had breathed in the air mixed with the qi of the vitality sealing pill. Most of their vital essence had been frozen. Even someone as strong as Bai Mingxu, who was at the peak of the Zephyr realm, had his vital essence in chaos. He could not use his martial arts skills smoothly. Basically, he only had the combat ability of the 3rd sky of the Zephyr realm. What kind of despicable trick did you use? The middle-aged man at the beginning said angrily. Despicable? So what if I'm despicable to your Bai family? Lin Tian smiled. He appeared in front of the middle-aged man in a flash. The long sword in his hand slashed down. With a poof, the middle-aged man's head was cut off. Originally, the middle-aged man's cultivation was at the 2nd sky of the Zephyr realm. However, after absorbing the qi of the vitality sealing pill, his vital essence was completely frozen. His combat ability was at its lowest. How could he be Lin Tian's opponent? He raised his long sword and appeared in front of another powerful cultivator of the Bai family. He raised his fist and smashed it down. Poof! His current physique could be said to be amazing. He smashed the early-stage Zephyr realm cultivator into pieces on the spot. He appeared on the other side and slashed out the young incinerating 5th sword, accurately sweeping out a large amount of sword light. Poof! 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 Screams rang out. After their vital essence was sealed, the ordinary cultivators of the Bai family could not resist the powerful young incinerating sword qi. They could not even dodge. One by one, their hearts, throats, and glabella were pierced. They fell into a pool of blood. No, 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 stop! I don't want to die, I don't want to die. Stop! Master Ming Su, save us! Screams and cries for help mixed together. Blood splashed out. In this square building, the other cultivators outside the Bai family trembled. Their faces were pale. This was the stronghold of the ancient Bai family. Everyone in this heaven realm knew about it. However, at this moment, a 17-year-old boy who was being chased by the Bai family, broke into this place alone. He attacked mercilessly and killed more than 20 powerful cultivators of the Bai family in the blink of an eye. Everyone was so shocked that they felt a chill down their spines. This was a young demon king. Bastard! Bai Ming-su was furious. He took a step forward and forcibly activated the soulless palm. His vital essence was chaotic as he slashed at Lin Tian. Lin Tian sneered as he used his divining divine art to unleash the same void god palm. You think you can fight me in your current state? The two void god palms collided with each other as violent Jinyuan spread out, forcing Bai Mingxiu back 3 steps. Then, Lin Tian stepped on the yin and yang liang and moved. He appeared in front of another early-stage Zephyr Realm cultivator of the Bai family. You, poof! Chapter 349. Reading on a mobile phone in the blink of an eye, another airborne realm clansman was killed. Bai Mingxiu was furious to the extreme. Please search Taste Bookien Network to see the most complete novel. The asterisk starred. Bai Mingxiu forcefully activated another secret technique from the Sutra of God. However, his vital essence was extremely chaotic, and its power was insufficient. Lin Tianling smiled and moved forward with the yin and yang liang. I'll deal with you first. The effect of the energy sealing pill could not be maintained for too long. He had to race against time. Once the effect of the Baodan wore off, he would probably be left here when facing such a peak-level airborne realm expert. He held up the barren heaven realm and used it to protect his body. Then, he transformed the 9-spring sword into his hand and slashed at Bai Mingxiu. With a crack, Bai Mingxiu's secret technique was shattered. At the same time, he was knocked back several steps. You! Blood gushed out of Bai Mingxiu's mouth as he stared at Lin Tian with an ashen face. Originally, he was at the peak of the airborne realm and did not need to care about Lin Tian at all. But now, with his vital essence in chaos, he could only barely have the combat strength of a 3rd-tier airborne realm expert. It was difficult for him to fully display his magic and martial arts. Now that he was injured by Lin Tian's sword, he was angry and sullen. Lin Tianling snorted. Without changing his pace, he pressed forward again. Clang! He held the 9-spring sword in his hand and slashed down again without hesitation. Bai Mingxiu tried his best to activate the Wuxin palm, but it was useless. It was shattered with one strike. With a bang, Bai Mingxiu was kicked in the chest by Lin Tianyi, and his entire body was sent flying again. Lord Mingxiu! Thief! Damn it! The rest of the Bai clan were furious. They waved their swords and sabers at Lin Tiansha. However, with their vital essence sealed, these people were weak to the point of no threat to Lin Tianyi. Lin Tian waved his sword. A Bai clan expert at the 5th-tier airborne realm coughed up blood. His throat was cut open, and blood spurted out. You thief! Why waste your breath when you're about to die? Lin Tian now. He swung his sword and cut off this person's head. Buzz! Light flickered and the barren heaven world rushed up and pressed forward. Pooh! 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 Bloody mist exploded and the few Bai clan cultivators were shattered by the light of the barren heaven world. I don't have much time to spend with you. Lin Tian now. With a boom, he used the divining divine technique to activate the divine chime hall. A sea of lightning rushed up, and a tall divine shadow stood up. Divine Roar Palace? Damn it, you actually! Everyone from the Bai family was shocked and furious. Everyone in the world knew that the Divine Cry Temple was the Bai family's Thunder God Physique's King's region. When this King's region was activated, it could cross 6 small realms to kill enemies. But now, an outsider was actually using their Bai family's Holy Son's King's region to deal with them. Shouldn't you feel honored to have the Divine Cry Palace kill you? Lin Tiantan said coldly. With a thought, the 10-foot-tall divine shadow swung the thunder sword and swept it away. In the blink of an eye, several more Bai family experts exploded, and some of the precious weapons in the pavilion were shattered on the spot. Thief! Stop it now! Bai Mingxiu roared. Lin Tian now tilted his head and sneered. He directly activated the Divine Cry Palace. "I'll kill you!" He didn't hold back at all. The barren heaven realm, the Divine Cry Palace, the 9 Springs sword, and several divine elephants pressed down together. At the same time, a broken mountain, a divine weapon bell, an ancient forest, and a sea of clover rushed out from behind him, covering Bai Mingxiu completely. The tremors caused the palace to break inch by inch, and cracks spread out in all directions. Facing several divine elephants, Bai Mingxiu coughed up blood. "Bastard! The Bai family won't let you go. You won't live! Don't talk about the Bai family. Your Bai family is nothing." Lin Tianling smiled. "Next I'll play with your Bai family slowly. I'll let your leader know the consequences of provoking me for no reason. You!" Poof! Several types of divine elephants pressed down together, shattering Bai Mingxiu into pieces on the spot. In the pavilion, the other cultivators outside the Bai family were all frightened and their faces were pale. An expert at the peak of the Zephyr Plane from an ancient family was killed so easily. Lin Tianling tilted his head and looked at the last few people of the Bai family. Clang! With a swing of his sword, the 8th stroke of the Yang incinerating sword was slashed out. There were screams, but it didn't last for long. After a few dozen breaths, the last few Bai family experts were all killed. Looking around, the pavilion was covered in blood and a few broken corpses fell to the ground. It was a shocking sight. In the pavilion, the cultivators outside the Bai family were all frightened and couldn't help but tremble. They only felt that the handsome young man in front of them was too terrifying. He was like a demon. Lin Tianlin looked at them and said, "Everyone, you can leave now. Don't worry, I won't do anything to you." Hearing this, the group of cultivators all ran out in 5 breaths of time. Lin Tiantan smiled coldly. The Divine Cry Palace behind him shook and the thunder shadow suddenly enlarged to more than 10 meters tall. A thunder sword appeared in the Divine Shadow's hand. With a clang, it shook the pavilion open and then cut it into pieces. Smoke and dust billowed into the sky. Lin Tianling didn't stay. He covered his face with the gray robe again and left in an instant. That person is simply too ruthless. Outside the pavilion of the Bai family, the cultivators who walked out were all frightened and pale. He barged in alone and killed everyone of the Bai family here. In the end, he even destroyed the entire pavilion. Everyone's hearts were beating wildly. Soon more people gathered here. After learning the details, they were all shocked. There's actually such a bold person? Some people were frightened. After leaving the vast sky district, Lin Tianling appeared in the Bai family's stronghold in the Hangzhou origin. "It's you?" The leader of the Bai family in the stronghold was shocked. "It's me. I'm here to send you on your way." Lin Tiantan smiled. With a shake of his long sword, the barren heaven world appeared and pressed down on everyone. "You're courting death." The Bai clan's manager had a cold expression on his face. A little sea of consciousness cultivator who was being chased by the clan actually dared to break into the Bai clan's stronghold. "I admire your arrogance because it saves the clan the time of looking for you." "Is that so? Soon you'll hate my arrogance." Lin Tiantan smiled. The leader of the Bai family snorted coldly. "Take him down." Dozens of Bai family experts surrounded him. However, in the next moment, everyone's expression changed, including several powerful existences at the 7th heavenly layer of the Zephyr realm. They all stopped abruptly. "Where's my vital essence? Why can't I feel my vital essence? I can't use my martial skills." Everyone in the Bai family was shocked. Then, the leader of the Bai family and the other cultivators in the stronghold all changed their expressions. Lin Tianyi smiled casually and directly used the divining divine technique. "Ah!" Screams soon sounded. Blood sputtered in the hall. After about half an hour, the screams weakened. Dozens of Bai family experts, including 3 at the 7th heavenly layer of the Zephyr realm, 5 at the 6th heavenly layer of the Zephyr realm, some ordinary Zephyr realm cultivators, and dozens of Sea of Consciousness cultivators were all killed. Only the leader at the peak of the Zephyr realm survived, but he was also on the verge of death. Now, do you still admire my arrogance? Lin Tian narrowed his eyes. You, puff! The divine roar palace and the barren heaven realm pressed down together, and directly shattered the Bai family expert. Lin Tiantan's expression was indifferent. He shattered the hall with the divine roar palace and then left, leaving a group of cultivators outside the Bai family who witnessed all this standing outside the hall in a daze. They all looked pale and couldn't help but gasp. Not long after leaving the Hangzhou origin, Lin Tian appeared in the Yanyin Square. Just like before, he used the same method to shatter 10 energy sealing pills, completely massacred the stronghold of the Bai family in the Yanyin Square, and completely shattered the entire hall. With a faint smile, he carried his gray robe and left in an instant. The ancient Bai family was actually, that person is simply a lunatic. Some of the cultivators who witnessed the whole process were terrified and only felt that their backs were covered by a layer of ice. Soon, the news spread like wildfire. A 17-year-old youth who was being chased by the ancient Bai family appeared in the Haotian district, the Hangzhou origin, and the Yanyin Square of his own accord. He destroyed all the strongholds of the Bai family in these 3 places. All the Bai family experts in these 3 strongholds were killed, and none of them escaped. This immediately shocked the world. Oh my God, is this true? That's not possible, right? That's right. The 3 strongholds of the Bai family were guarded by many Zephyr Plane experts, and the strongest was at the peak of the Zephyr Plane. That Lin Tiantan, it's said that he's only at the 8th level of the spiritual sea. How could he do this? That's right. It's true. Someone saw it with their own eyes. Rumor has it that the people in those strongholds had their spiritual ether frozen. Their spiritual ether frozen? Was that Lin Tian's doing? Nonsense, it's obvious. Many people were discussing. Those who did not believe it rushed to the 3 areas and saw the destroyed strongholds of the Bai family, and the corpses and blood of the Bai family experts. Their hearts palpitated. The Bai family is a behemoth that has been passed down since the ancient times. That Lin Tian dares to openly provoke the Bai family. Is he going to make an enemy of the entire Bai family? Some people stared. The Bai family, which had been passed down since the ancient times, had looked down on this region for more than 10,000 years. It was a true behemoth that no one dared to offend. But now, a 17-year-old youth had taken the initiative to kill the Bai family. He's too arrogant. Some people trembled. In the second heaven, many cultivators were shocked. At the same time, the Bai family was even more furious. Since the founding of the Bai family, they had dominated this region for countless years. When had anyone dared to offend the Bai family like this? Never. Even the heavenly monster mountain, which had always been at odds with human cultivators, did not dare to do so. But now, a 17-year-old youth, who was only at the 8th level of the spiritual sea, had directly killed his way to the strongholds of the Bai family outside the family, completely destroyed 3 strongholds, and killed all the members of the Bai family in those strongholds. This was undoubtedly a challenge to the dignity of the ancient Bai family. Find him and kill him! Skin him! Light up the sky lantern! Capture him and bring him back to the family. Let the ancestors extract his divine soul and imprison it in front of the tombstones of the dead clansmen forever. The young experts of the Bai family were furious. They frantically searched for Lin Tian's traces and swore to tear his tendons and break his bones. On the same day, on a wide road, Lin Tian appeared in front of several young experts of the Bai family. Are you looking for me? Chapter 350. Reading on the mobile phone. Seeing Lin Tian appear, the faces of several young powerhouses of the Bai family changed. Pinbooknet. How dare you appear in front of us? One of them said coldly. What a joke! I even dared to break into the strongholds of your Bai family. What are you all? Lin Tian said disdainfully. There were 9 powerhouses of the Bai family in front of him. Only one of them was at the early stage of the Zephyr realm, and the other 8 were at the Sea of Consciousness realm. Without any superfluous words, he brandished his sword and rushed towards the 9 people. Without a doubt, this was a battle without any suspense. In the blink of an eye, 8 Sea of Consciousness realm cultivators were killed. The young man at the early stage of the Zephyr realm turned pale and tried to jump into the air, but unfortunately, he was beheaded as soon as he took a step. Glancing at the corpses of the 9 people indifferently, he turned around and left. Not long after, he appeared in front of another old forest and killed another group of young cultivators of the Bai family, staining the ground with blood. "Oh my God!" Some people witnessed this scene with their own eyes, feeling that their hearts were about to jump out of their chests. Afterwards, Lin Tian wore another black robe and appeared before over a dozen young cultivators of the Bai family one after another. He slew all the experts of the Bai family who were searching for him, not letting a single one escape. Such behavior undoubtedly caused the Bai family to be even angrier. The young cultivators of the Bai family became even crazier. They searched everywhere, threatening to grind Lin Tian's bones into ashes. However, what they got in return was more corpses of the young generation of the Bai family. At the same time, a voice sounded from the old forest. "Old fogies of the Bai family, tell your younger generation to obediently hide in the family's lair. Don't ever let them out and run around. Otherwise, I'll kill every one of you I see." As soon as such a voice came out, it instantly spread throughout the second heaven, causing everyone to be shocked. Everyone's eyes widened, and their faces were full of disbelief. A 17-year-old Sea of Consciousness realm cultivator dared to openly challenge an ancient family. "He's too arrogant." This was the unanimous opinion of everyone. "Whether this Lin Tian survives or not, he will leave a thick mark in the history of the second heaven," someone said. 17 years old, 8th level Sea of Consciousness, yet he dared to challenge an ancient aristocratic family all by himself. How could an ordinary person have such courage? "Behead!" In the easternmost land, within the Bai clan, a cold voice rang out. It was wrapped in unconcealable anger and killing intent. On this day, 7 young men walked out from the Bai family. All of them had majestic figures, extraordinary appearances, and shockingly dense blood qi. "Bring back his head!" A cold voice came from the Bai family, echoing throughout the sky. The 7 people's eyes were cold as they disappeared in the blink of an eye. The news quickly spread, and the Bai family was furious. A true expert of the younger generation appeared. 2 years ago, the 7 heroes of the Bai family seemed to have dominated the second heaven. Few in the same generation could contend against them. These 7 people are all at the second layer of the Zephyr realm, but there are rumors that all 7 of them can kill a 5th layer of the Zephyr realm. "Are you sure?" "Of course. It is said that in the same generation of the Bai family, only the Thunder God Physique can suppress these 7 people." "Nonsense, that's the King Physique, the real supreme being of the same generation. Under the immortal realm, he is basically an invincible existence. If that's the case, that Lin Tian is in danger. With the 7 heroes of the Bai family together, it is expected that it will be difficult for that person to survive. Isn't he courting death by provoking an ancient family?" "Really?" Many people shook their heads. In a green mountain, Lin Tian listened to the rumors in the outside world, and his eyes narrowed slightly. "A second layer of the Zephyr realm, but he can kill a 5th layer of the Zephyr realm. He is indeed powerful." He looked into the distance with a cold smile on his face. "If these 7 heroes die outside, the Bai family should be heartbroken." The corner of his mouth raised slightly, and with a flash, he disappeared from the spot. The second heaven was filled with mountains and rivers, and the spiritual qi was extremely abundant. Even in some ordinary old forests, one could occasionally see a few powerful demon beasts. Lin Tian, wearing a black robe, walked in the mountains and old forests, inhaling and exhaling the spiritual qi in the forest. After passing through many corners, he stopped at the intersection of a main road and sat on a yellow stone not far away. Whoosh! A light breeze blew, rolling up pieces of sand and dust. There were many cultivators on the main road, but their cultivation was not strong. The highest was only at the 6th layer of the Sea of Consciousness. Soon 2 hours passed. In the distance, a young man in luxurious clothes walked past, attracting the attention of all the passers-by. Bai Luocheng, one of the 7 heroes of the Bai family. His aura is so strong. Strange, why is there only one person? Didn't the 7 of them come out of the family together? What kind of people are the 7 heroes of the Bai family? They are all proud people. They are just chasing and killing a cultivator at the 8th layer of the Sea of Consciousness. How could there be 7 of them together? They separated when they walked out of the family gate, many people said. Seeing Bai Luocheng walking over, many people hurriedly retreated to the side and made way for him. Bai Luocheng's expression was cold as if there was no one around, and he directly walked forward. At this moment, the sound of a sword rang out, and the flaming sword she rolled over and landed beside his feet. This? Who is attacking? How dare they block the path of the 7 heroes of the Bai family? Are they crazy? Many rogue cultivators were shocked. Bai Luocheng's expression did not change, and he tilted his head and looked in the direction of the sword chi. Not dodging, not avoiding, not changing your expression, you are indeed extraordinary. A voice sounded. On the yellow stone in the distance, Lin Tian stood up and lifted his black robe. It's that Lin Tian? Why is he here? At this fork, the rogue cultivators were all shocked. Bai Luocheng looked at Lin Tian, and a faint light flashed in his cold eyes. You deliberately waited for me here? I waited for 2 hours and wanted to borrow your head. Lin Tian smiled. Hearing this, the surrounding people were shocked. The 7 heroes of the Bai family came out to kill him, but this guy actually took the initiative to wait for the 7 heroes here? He wants to kill the 7 of them? He is too arrogant. Many people were shocked. Bai Luocheng's eyes were cold. As arrogant as the rumors say. After saying this, Bai Luocheng did not say anything else and rushed toward Lin Tian like lightning. So fast! This speed! It's the Bai family's divine void puppet! The crowd exclaimed. After that, dense phantoms of Bai Luocheng appeared in all directions. It was difficult to distinguish which one was real and which one was fake. Lin Tian's eyes narrowed slightly. His feet swayed, and he also moved. Every step he took created an afterimage, as if he was walking on the great path. In the blink of an eye, dense phantoms appeared at this fork. Seeing this scene, many cultivators were shocked and retreated in unison. At this moment, no one could distinguish which one was real and which one was fake. Some people even rubbed their eyes from time to time, dazzled by the dense phantoms. Bang! 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 The sound of fists colliding could be heard from time to time. After 7 breaths, the phantoms in the sky collapsed, and 2 figures were sent flying backward. You have such a physique and speed when you are only at the 8th level of the Sea of Consciousness. No wonder so many people of my Bai family died at your hands. Bai Luocheng said coldly. You are not bad yourself. You are much stronger than the ordinary airborne realm trash of your Bai family. Lin Tian now. His eyes narrowed slightly. This Bai Luocheng was indeed very powerful. His physique, speed, and spiritual sense were all very shocking. Bai Luocheng snorted coldly, and the aura around his body suddenly increased wildly. Don't be so smug. This is all you have. You can die now. I will take your head and offer it to the souls of our family. Violent spiritual ether spread out. In the next moment, a 3-meter-tall divine shadow appeared behind Bai Luocheng. This divine shadow had dense hands. At a glance, it was dazzling. Is this that secret art? 3-meter-tall divine shadow and dense hands. There is no doubt about it. This is one of the core magic of the Bai family, the 1,000 illusory divine hands. It is said that only the direct disciples are qualified to cultivate this kind of art. Its power can shatter mountains and shake seas. It is very terrifying. That is right. Many cultivators were moved. Bai Luocheng stepped forward, and the divine shadow behind him moved with him. The Bai family has been around for more than 10,000 years. Since ancient times, we have looked down on this region. No one has ever dared to provoke us. If anyone dares to challenge the dignity of our family, There is only one word to describe it: kill! Boom! As soon as Bai Luoqing finished speaking, the divine shadow behind him moved. All of a sudden, the divine shadow moved and dense handprints pressed down together. Lin Tian's eyes narrowed, and he immediately felt a great pressure. He took a step back and propped up the barren heaven world and divine cry hall to press forward. Barren heaven world? Divine cry hall? He actually knows how to do it. It's clearly a bloodline magic unique to the king's territory. Many cultivators were shocked. Although these people had long heard that Lin Tian knew how to use the barren heaven world and divine cry hall, they still couldn't help but be shocked when they saw it with their own eyes. The barren heaven world and divine cry hall swayed and faced the large hands in the sky. All of a sudden, the violent spiritual ether swept in all directions, causing the air to distort. Only the king's territory divine powers can be derived from the king's territory. What you can deduce is just the form. How much power can it have? Bai Luoqing said coldly. As soon as he said that, the divine shadow behind him trembled, and even more dense handprints fell. With a crack, cracks appeared in the barren heaven world, and it shattered on the spot. Afterwards, the divine cry hall trembled and dissipated like fireworks. Lin Tian frowned and quickly retreated. Before this, he had used the divining divine technique to derive the barren heaven world and divine cry hall, and they were almost always invincible. However, at this moment, they were defeated by Bai Luoqing head-on, which made him a little shocked. He thought to himself that Bai Luoqing was indeed very powerful and worthy of being called one of the 7 heroes of the Bai family. That's all you're capable of, Bai Luoqing said. Behind him, the figure trembled and a huge handprint pressed down, covering everything within a 30-foot radius. Don't be too full of yourself, Lin Tianling said. He activated the divining divine technique and evolved the 9 Springs sword. With a swing of his sword, he shattered the handprint into pieces. Bai Luoqing's expression was indifferent. The figure behind him trembled and more handprints pressed down. With a crisp crack, Lin Tian's 9 Springs sword was shattered. He propped up the primordial mountain, the divine weapon bell, and the immortal forest, but it was still useless. They were shattered again and again. The 1,000 transformations divine hands is endless. Everything you do is in vain. All your methods will be shattered, Bai Luoqing said. Lin Tian dodged and stepped on the yin-yang puppet to retreat dozens of feet away. Is that so? Then let's see what you can't break, he said coldly. With a buzz, his right hand shook, and the 4 symbols Tao diagram condensed. Chapter 351. The 4 symbols Tao diagram buzzed and trembled, releasing specks of silver light that shot forward. It's useless! Bai Luoqing's expression was cold. Whether it's useful or not is up to me, Lin Tian now. He held the Tao diagram in his right hand, trembling slightly as he charged forward. With a hiss, the 1,000 phantoms' dense mass of hands instantly dissipated, vanishing without a trace. Lin Tiandao used the Tao diagram to open a path, destroying one hand after another to force his way toward Bai Luoqing. Bai Luoqing's expression changed, and he hurriedly retreated. You can actually destroy my divine ability light, but how much can you destroy? With that, Bai Luoqing took a step back, but the phantoms behind him moved even faster, sending down even more giant hands like a 1,000-armed Buddha. Lin Tian now held the 4 symbols Tao diagram, and immediately felt the pressure. Although the Tao diagram could seal everything, Bai Luoqing was too strong. The divine ability light was endless, and the giant hands were extremely ferocious and full of offensive power. He couldn't destroy them all in a short time. Ka! With a crisp sound, a clear crack appeared on the 4 symbols Tao diagram in his hand. Lin Tiandao's expression changed, and he hurriedly retreated. At this moment, he truly felt how terrifying Bai Luoqing was. The title of Bai Clan's 7 heroes was not just for show. Many thanks for waiting for me here. If I take your head back to the clan, it will be a great merit, Bai Luoqing said. As Bai Luoqing stepped forward, the 1,000 phantoms behind him moved as well, and the giant hands pressed down once more. Similarly, I'll borrow your head and give your Bai clan a surprise. Lin Tian now. Presumptuous! Bai Luoqing coldly snorted. With a boom, the phantoms behind him shone brightly. This time, it wasn't just the giant hands, but also fists, palms, and fingers. At the same time, true yuan weapons appeared in some of the giant hands. There were sabers, swords, bells, shields, and even net-like objects. There were a total of 8 true yuan weapons. In the distance, a cultivator's expression changed. 1,000 illusory godly hands. It's said that when this divine ability is cultivated to its peak, it can create 1,000 illusory artifacts. Its power is unparalleled, and it can destroy a huge mountain with a single thought. Bai Luoqing has actually cultivated this divine ability to such a level that he can already create artifacts. This is terrifying. It seems the rumors that the 7 heroes of clan can kill a 5th heavenly layer powerhouse are true. Terrifying. The crowd was horrified. Sensing Bai Luoqing's aura divine ability of Bai Luoqing's Bai Luoqing. I've fought against a 6th-tier Zephyr Realm expert with this form of this technique. You're not wrong to die under this move, Bai Luoqing said. Stepping forward, Bai Luoqing's expression was cold. The 1,000 phantoms' divine hands moved at the same time and pressed down on Lin Tian. The 8 true yuan weapons rumbled and distorted the void. Do you really think you can kill me? Lin Tianling said. Behind him, the barren heaven world, the divine cry temple, and the 9 springs sword rushed forward. I've said it before. The weapons of the king's region are useless against me, Bai Luoqing said. The 1,000 phantoms' divine hands shook, and in a moment, the 3 divine elephants were crushed. Lin Tian didn't care about that. He raised his hands and formed a seal again. This time, a stone platform and a stone wall rushed out behind him. On the stone wall, a line of ancient words was overflowing with divine light, and the words, Dao and Ren, were circulating with great pressure. What's that? What a terrifying pressure this! Why do I feel like I'm facing an immortal Ascension Realm powerhouse? Some cultivators' hearts palpitated. Staring at the stone platform and stone wall that rushed out behind Lin Tian, everyone's bodies trembled. At the same time, crackling sounds could be heard. In an instant, the shadows of Bai Luoqing's fists and palms were shattered. This is? Bai Luoqing's expression changed as he stared at the stone platform and stone wall behind Lin Tian. He actually felt his heart palpitate. Lin Tian's expression was cold. He took a step forward and pressed down on Bai Luoqing. He used the divining divine technique to simulate the place where Heavenly Lord Dao Ren comprehended the Dao back then. The aura inside was extremely terrifying. Although it was an illusion, it still had great power. Qi! 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 This time, the 1,000 phantoms' divine hands couldn't destroy the stone platform and stone wall created by Lin Tian. What are you doing? Bai Luoqing shouted. At this moment, the man who was one of the 7 heroes of the Bai family had truly changed. Lin Tianling smiled and didn't say anything. He used the yin and yang ho and increased his speed, instantly approaching Bai Luoqing. Bai Luoqing left an afterimage on the spot and stepped on the divine void puppet to retreat quickly. You can't compare speed, Lin Tianling said. He used the yin and yang ho and instantly caught up to Bai Luoqing. The stone platform and stone wall above him pressed down together. Shatter! Bai Luoqing roared. The 1,000 phantoms' divine hands trembled as they attacked Lin Tian in a frenzy. Lin Tian used the stone platform and stone wall to meet the attacks. He felt the blood in his chest boil, and blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth. Suppress! He said coldly. With a boom, the stone platform and stone wall trembled and shattered. Bai Luoqing coughed up blood and staggered back. The 1,000 phantoms' divine hands behind him almost shattered. At this moment, Lin Tian pressed forward again. Die! Bai Luoqing roared. Behind him, the 1,000 phantoms' divine hands rose from the ground. This time, not only were there giant palms, there were also leg shadows pressing down. Lin Tian felt an even stronger pressure, and all the bones in his body were creaking. Let's see how long you can last, he said coldly. The stone platform and stone wall met the attack. At the same time, he used the four symbols Tao diagram, causing it to expand to a diameter of around 20 feet. With the stone platform and stone wall opening the way and the four symbols Tao diagram behind, the giant palms and leg shadows continued to shatter and disappear. The two sides were locked in a stalemate. Lin Tian strode forward, approaching Bai Luoqing with great difficulty. After several dozen breaths of time, he finally opened a path. His feet flickered, and he approached Bai Luoqing. You bang! Lin Tian swung his fist and struck Bai Luoqing's face. Bai Luoqing flew back 30 feet, the divine shadows behind him shattering. His expression changed, and he quickly steadied himself. With a hand seal, a new 1,000 phantoms divine hands gradually formed behind him. Don't even think about it, Lin Tianling said. He could not give Bai Luoqing another chance to form the 1,000 phantoms divine hands. He used the yin and yang ho and instantly closed in. With a bang, another punch landed on Bai Luoqing's chest. The sound of bones shattering rang out, and Bai Luoqing was sent flying again. Lin Tian's eyes were as sharp as knives. He took a step forward, closed in again, and punched again. Bai Luoqing roared and raised his fist to meet the attack. The two fists collided. Bai Luoqing immediately let out a muffled groan, his fingers shattered, and he was sent flying again. The 7 heroes of the Bai family are said to have strong physiques. They soak in all kinds of medicinal pools since they were young, and their physiques are comparable to diamond. But now, they can't beat Lin Tian? Does that Lin Tian have the barbarian king physique? The cultivators' hearts palpitated. At this time, Lin Tian had already closed in on Bai Luoqing again, and he punched again. This time, he used all his strength and directly shattered one of Bai Luoqing's arms. Bai Luoqing grunted in pain, and his remaining arms swung the limitless divine palm at Lin Tian. Poof! Lin Tian shook his iron fist and shattered Bai Luoqing's last arm. Bai Luoqing roared, his eyes bloodshot. Now that his arms were broken, he stepped on the divine void puppet and attacked Lin Tian. Courageous! Courageous! Lin Tian praised. Unfortunately, we are enemies. I'll give you a quick death. A high-grade supreme treasure sword appeared in his hand. He unfolded the lightning sword and directly cut off Bai Luoqing's head. A pillar of blood spurted out, and Bai Luoqing's corpse fell to the ground. Lin Tian looked back, put away Bai Luoqing's head, and left with a cold look in his eyes. 6 more! He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and muttered to himself coldly. This, Bai Luoqing, one of the 7 heroes of the Bai family, was killed? That Lin Tian, who is he? How can he be so powerful? He is only at the 8th level of the spiritual sea. Everyone's lips trembled. On the second day, the spiritual qi was dense, and the sky was always blue. After killing Bai Luoqing, Lin Tian, dressed in a black robe, stepped into the mountains and rivers. Not long after, he encountered the second 7 heroes of the Bai family. After an intense battle, he cut off the head of the second 7 heroes of the Bai family and left with large strides. On a grassland, he killed the third 7 heroes. Outside the vast heaven district, the sky had already darkened. After killing the fourth 7 heroes, he returned to the mountains to recuperate with bloodstains all over his body. On the second day, he walked out of the mountains and attacked again, killing the 5th and 6th 7 heroes. On the third day, beside a river, 2 figures were running one after another. Both of them were covered in blood, but their speed was extremely fast. That's Lin Tian. He seems to be chasing after the young man in front? The one running away is Bai Zihua? Bai Zihua? It is said that he is the strongest of the 7 heroes. Now, he is actually running away? I must have seen wrongly. Beside the river, a group of cultivators opened their eyes wide. Bai Zihua was at the peak of level 2 of the Zephyr realm. It was said that he had personally torn apart several level 5 of the Zephyr realm, but now, he was actually running away. Everyone! Please help me suppress this scoundrel. My Bai family will definitely repay you generously, Bai Zihua shouted. There were many cultivators beside the river. If it were any other time, if they heard such a voice and could help the Bai family's experts, these cultivators would probably rush up without hesitation. But now, no one dared to move. Some people even lowered their heads and pretended that they didn't see anything. What a joke. During this period of time, Lin Tian had killed several hundred people, including powerful itinerant cultivators and disciples of great sections. He had even destroyed 3 of the Bai family's strongholds and killed 6 of the 7 heroes. His ferocious name had spread throughout the second heaven. With such a ferocious name, who would still dare to go up? That would be courting death. Seeing that no one went up, Bai Zihua's countenance turned ashen. He was both shocked and furious. Damn it! Stepping on the divine void puppet, Bai Zihua fled frantically. You won't be able to escape, Lin Tianling said. His entire body was covered in blood, and he executed the yin-yang Tao to its limits. He finally caught up to Bai Zihua after several dozen breaths. Lin Tian, stop! We can discuss this. Discuss? Go look for the King of Hell for this matter. Sword chimes rang out, and Lin Tian's eyes were cold and merciless. He pierced through Bai Zihua's heart and then chopped off his head. His eyes were indifferent as he looked around and took out the heads of the other 6 heroes from his stone ring. He then pierced through the 7 heads with a long sword and nailed them to a spacious ground beside the river. Then, he took out another long sword, vibrated his vital essence, and carved a line of words on the ground. The second gift, you're welcome, Lin Tian. After throwing a cold glance, he turned to leave. Chapter 352. Beside the river, splashing sounds could be heard as the water splashed into a few old rocks, creating snow-white waves. 7 heads were pierced through by a sword and nailed to the ground. The words in front of the heads were even more glaring. The second gift, you're welcome, Lin Tian. Someone read it subconsciously, and suddenly felt a chill rush from the soles of his feet to his head. This man, first, he destroyed 3 of the Bai family's strongholds, then he killed the 7 heroes of the Bai family. This is considered 2 gifts? This is simply a slap to the Bai family's face. I seem to have heard a loud slap in the face. This enmity is really big. Many people gasped. The 7 heroes of the Bai family were incomparably powerful. They were all geniuses of their generation. In such a large family, only the Thunder God physique could suppress the 7 heroes. They were the blood and sweat of the Bai family, but now, the 7 heroes were all killed by a single person. Soon, the news spread, and more people came to watch. Everyone's eyes widened as they stared at the 7 heads and the line of words carved on the ground. I've never seen such an arrogant person in my life. Sorry, me too. This? Everyone stared. In the second heaven, who didn't know the majesty of the ancient Bai family? Who dared to offend the ancient Bai family? That was a ferocious tiger, a dragon that reigned over this heaven realm. But now, a little cultivator at the 8th heavenly layer dared to provoke the ancient Bai clan without any powerful backup. This caused the entire world to be shaken once again. In the Bai family's territory, a roar rushed out, startling the white cranes flying in the sky. Beast! The 3 big shots of the Bai family were furious to the extreme. The destruction of the 3 strongholds in the vast heaven area was nothing. At most, it would make the Bai family lose face. However, the death of the 7 heroes really made the 3 of them feel distressed. These 7 people were all extraordinary and possessed shocking talents. They could be considered as the future pillars of the Bai clan. Today, the 7 of them were all killed outside the Bai clan. This loss was too great. In particular, after Lin Tian beheaded the 7 heroes of the Bai clan, he actually pierced through their skulls and nailed them to the ground, leaving behind a line of words. This made the 3 great figures of the Bai clan so angry that smoke was coming out of their heads. The other members of the Bai clan also had ugly expressions on their faces. They only felt a burning pain on their cheeks, as if they were really slapped in the face. No matter what, we must kill this kid, a big shot said. In the beginning, the three of them only wanted to kill off Lin Tian because they didn't want any accidents to happen to the marriage alliance between the Bai family and the Li family. But now, the two families were on opposite sides. In the past, even if they didn't kill off Lin Tian, it wouldn't be a big deal. But now, they couldn't. If they didn't kill off Lin Tian now, the Bai family would lose a lot of face and become a laughingstock. Kill! 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 These three words resounded in the sky above the Bai family, and the killing intent was shockingly cold. The second heaven was in an uproar. Now, in every corner, every place, restaurant, palace, and storytelling stall, everyone was discussing intensely, and the center of the discussion was all about one word. Lin Tian. This Lin Quangren, what's going on? This is 17 years old, and he used to cultivate in the Limitless sect. It's said that he didn't rely on any resources from the Wuji Gate. Such a person, without any backup, and relying entirely on himself, how can he be so strong? Who knows? He's a monster! Many people shook their heads. Among them, some felt that Lin Tian was too arrogant, some felt that Lin Tian was full of courage, but they were all shocked. Lin Tian heard a lot of these voices, but he didn't care. After leaving the river, he walked into an old forest and prepared to concentrate on his cultivation. He wanted to reach the 9th level of the mental ocean as soon as possible, and then use the Imperial Sky Pill to reach the Imperial Sky Realm. In the past few days, the battle with the 7 heroes had made him understand a lot of things. He felt that the spiritual ether in his body was flowing more smoothly, and there were faint signs of another breakthrough. Only when I reach the Imperial Sky Realm can I truly walk proudly in this heaven realm, he said to himself. 2 rays of light flashed in his eyes, and his steps were extremely fast. Soon, he entered the depths of the old forest. In the old forest, birds were chirping, and it was a unique flavor. Lin Tian smiled and walked faster. Listening to the birds, he looked for a place to hide in the old forest. But in the next moment, the birds suddenly stopped chirping, and everything was quiet. Lin Tian felt a chill down his spine, and he suddenly stopped. In front of him stood a man in black. His face was sharp, and his eyes were indifferent, as if he didn't care about anything. Who is it? Lin Tian said in a low voice. Staring at the man in black, he felt a great threat for the first time, as if he was facing the desolate demon physique of the demon clan. The man in black didn't answer. He took a step forward and said, Please borrow something. What do you want to borrow? Lin Tian frowned. Weapon control technique. The man in black was very direct. Lin Tian's eyes darkened slightly. Not lending. After saying that, he turned and walked to the other side. With a swish, the man in black silently blocked in front of Lin Tian, and a gorgeous long blade suddenly appeared in his hand. Suddenly, a domineering blade will spread, forcing Lin Tian to retreat more than 5 meters. At this moment, a chill ran down his spine. The man in black looked to be about 21, but he was astonishingly strong. The sharp blade will made him feel that it was difficult to resist, as if he was facing a strong man at the peak of the Imperial Sky Realm. You and I fight, and if I win, give me the weapon control technique, the man said with a posture of indifference. Why? Lin Tianling smiled. You don't have a choice, the man in black said. Lin Tian's face was slightly cold, but he had to admit that he did have no other choice now. Because the man in front of him was too terrifying. The man in black stared at Lin Tian and said, I am at the 3rd level of the Imperial Sky Realm, but I won't take advantage of you. After saying that, the long blade in the man's hand shook again, and then the breath on his body suddenly decreased. In the blink of an eye, the fluctuations on the man's body weakened several times, which made Lin Tian frown. The 8th level of the Sea of Consciousness, the man in black said. After saying that, the man didn't say anything more. His eyes were extremely sharp, and he slashed at Lin Tian. With a clang, the void directly cracked, and a big black crack appeared. Lin Tian's expression changed, and he quickly dodged, but he was still a little slow. His right shoulder was cut open, and blood immediately gushed out. So strong! He was secretly shocked. At this moment, he could feel that the man in black had indeed suppressed his cultivation to the 8th level of the sea of consciousness, which was the same level as him. However, the man's combat strength still shocked him. The power of that slash was not something that a cultivator in the 8th level of the sea of consciousness could do. Even an expert at the peak of the Imperial Sky Realm would not be able to do it. This was not referring to the pure power, but that the attack contained a kind of blade momentum, an extremely terrifying kind of blade momentum. That slash seemed to have sealed everything, disrupting his footsteps, and greatly reducing his speed. The man in black's expression was cold. Without saying anything, he slashed again. Clang! The ear-piercing sound of the blade swept through the sky. Before the blade light arrived, dozens of trees were immediately shattered into pieces. Lin Tian's expression changed. He moved his hands, supporting the barren heaven world and the divine roar palace, and pressed forward. Boom! The two collided, and the blade aura collapsed. The barren heaven world and the divine roar palace also shattered, disappearing into nothingness. Lin Tian's eyes were indifferent. Knowing that there was no way to avoid it, he stepped forward and faced it directly. Since you've already lowered your level, I'll do as you wish and beat you to the ground, he said coldly. In the battle of the Yin and Yang Hua, he was extremely fast. In an instant, he appeared in front of the man in black and punched him directly. With a thump, the void trembled as if a sacred drum had been beaten. The man in black's expression did not change. He pointed his blade backward and punched forward. Bang! The two fists collided, and both of them retreated. Lin Tian felt pain in his right hand and could not help but feel a little surprised. On the path of cultivation, he used the 4 extreme scriptures to temper his body almost every day. His body was extremely strong, and few could resist it. But now, the man in black's body seemed to be no weaker than his. That iron fist seemed to be formed by a piece of diamond, indestructible. Opposite him, a strange light flashed in the man's eyes, but it quickly disappeared and was covered by indifference again. He unsheathed his long blade. His body was like a ghost, bringing up hurricanes. In an instant, he appeared in front of Lin Tian again. The long blade in his hand was merciless. He slashed at Lin Tian's chest, almost cutting the void open. Lin Tian retreated. An upper true treasure sword appeared in his hand, and he used the 9 forms of the burning sun to meet the attack. With a clang, the blade and the sword collided. Strong winds swept out, shattering large pieces of old wood around them. The man in black shook his arm and attacked again. Vaguely, the blade trembled, and a buzzing sound was heard. Lin Tian held the upper true treasure sword tightly. The power of fire surged, covering the entire sword as he slashed forward. Clang! 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 The blade and the sword kept colliding. Strong winds raged, almost shattering the ground. With a poof, Lin Tian was hit in the abdomen. Immediately blood flowed out. However, at the same time, he gritted his teeth, endured the pain, and rushed forward. He punched the man in black in the chest, sending him flying more than 15 meters away. Clang! 15 meters away, the sharp blade light rushed up. The man in black stood up. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, but his expression did not change. With a swoosh, the man transformed into a divine blade. Overbearing blade she intertwined and slashed at Lin Tian. Lin Tian's expression changed. He slashed with the 8th sword of the burning sun. Then, he formed a seal with both hands. He activated the 9-spring sword with the divining divine skill. He grasped it in his hand and slashed at the air. Boom! This was an astonishing collision. The old wood within a radius of several meters was instantly shattered, and the ground was full of cracks. Both of them were sent flying, blood gushing out of their mouths. After stabilizing himself, Lin Tian was even more shocked. Previously, when he fought with the 7 heroes of the Bai family, he felt that the 7 heroes were really strong. However, at this moment, when he compared the 7 heroes to the man in black, he suddenly felt that the 7 so-called heroes were simply dregs. The man in black was bleeding from the corner of his mouth, but his expression was still cold. He held the blade with one hand and raised it to the sky. Clang! Suddenly, dense blade shadows appeared and covered the surroundings. Every blade light seemed to have its own consciousness. Chapter 353. Lin Tian's expression changed. He immediately felt a huge pressure, and even felt the threat of death. Hum! The sound of the saber became even more violent and terrifying. Lin Tian lowered his head and saw the ground shake. Broken sand rose into the sky inch by inch. This was a terrifying force. The man in black held the saber in one hand and pressed it down. Instantly, all the saber lights rushed toward him like lightning. Lin Tian was shocked. He stepped on the yin and yang road to dodge. However, the saber lights seemed to have their own consciousness. They followed him closely and even cut a crack in the space. Poof! There was a cut on his left arm, and he immediately felt an intense pain. Staring at the saber lights, he felt a special wave. It was definitely not a simple martial arts technique. This was a divine power. He quickly evaded and put away the supreme treasure sword. His hands formed an imprint, activating the desolate great mountain and the precious weapon Old Forest. After this, his hands became even heavier. A stone platform and a stone wall rushed out from behind him, suspending in the air. Boom! The moment the stone platform and stone wall appeared, a vast shock wave spread out, shattering the saber lights and the surroundings. The man in black was shocked, and a strange look appeared in his eyes. With a clang, the man unfolded the long saber in his hand. He closed it again, bringing the saber lights that filled the sky down. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. The stone platform and stone wall above his head propped up the four symbols Taoist diagram. He swung his upper-grade treasure sword again. Clang! 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 The two collided. Saber against sword, saber light against divine elephant. Terrifying waves spread out again and again. In the process, the light of true essence sputtered. The two of them left bloody marks on each other's bodies from time to time, and left punches on each other's bodies from time to time. However, their auras became more and more vigorous. Waves of tyrannical waves surged out. In the old forest, many birds and beasts were frightened and fled in unison. At the same time, outside the old forest, cultivators passed by. They were all shocked and looked in this direction. What's happening there? It seems like someone is fighting. This is such a powerful wave. Let's go take a look. Let's go. Soon, someone walked into the depths of the old forest. Not long after, some people arrived. They stared at the two people's battle, and all of them revealed shocked expressions. It's that Lin Tian. There's another person. Who is that person? So strong. Why are these two fighting together? Everyone was shocked. Lin Tian and the black-clothed man were locked in battle. Naturally, they had sensed the arrival of the crowd. However, their expressions did not change in the slightest. Their battle intent burned brightly. Their blade and sword collided continuously. The violent battle intent swept out in all directions. Clang! The black-robed man shook his long saber, and the dense saber light scattered out like billions of birds flapping their wings. Due to the power of the blade, the surrounding space shook and distorted as though it would shatter at the very next moment. This caused the cultivators who had rushed over from afar to feel a chill in their hearts. This blade intent was simply too terrifying. It was practically capable of breaking through anything. On the stone platform and stone wall above Lin Tian's head, the two words, Dao Ren, shone brightly, crushing everything. Buzz! The four symbols Dao diagram shook and annihilated all the saber light in the surroundings. In the next moment, the two of them charged together again. Their fists and feet collided, and their sabers and swords clashed. The ground shook involuntarily. Pfft! His sword fell and slashed the black-clothed man's chest. However, at the same time, the black-clothed man's long saber also landed on his shoulder. If it were not for the divine elephant, his entire arm might have been cut off. However, their expressions did not change at all. On the contrary, their eyes became even brighter and more resplendent. Clang! Clang! The sound of saber and sword rang out at the same time. Their clothes were stained with blood, and blood gushed out of their mouths. However, they both charged at each other ferociously. Saber light and sword shadows intertwined. The divine elephant and the saber Tao theurgy collided. It was not until dozens of breaths later that the two of them stopped. After a short confrontation, the old forest was covered in cracks. There was not a single intact piece of land within a radius of 100 feet. So terrifying. These two people, they're both *king freaks. Two monsters! In the distance, everyone was dumbfounded. Such terrifying combat power made everyone tremble in fear. It was too terrifying. Lin Tian panted heavily. His hand holding the long sword trembled slightly as he stared at the black-clothed man opposite him. Ever since he stepped onto the path of cultivation, he had always crushed those of the same level. Even if he fought with people who were 2 or 3 levels higher, he would not feel too much pressure. However, this black-clothed man had suppressed his cultivation to the same level as him, but it was so strenuous for him. After a round of confrontation, he was seriously injured several times and consumed half of his spiritual ether. Opposite him, the black-clothed man's mouth was bleeding, and his eyes were filled with shock. However, it was only for a moment. In the next moment, the shock in the man's eyes disappeared, and an even more terrifying aura rushed out. With a boom, the man's glabella shone brightly. Vaguely, a reddish-yellow land appeared. The land was filled with different sabers. There were broad sabers, long sabers, and broken sabers. Each saber emitted a terrifying chill. Lin Tian's expression changed. He felt pain all over his body. Spiritual sea phenomenon! He was shocked. The light from the black-clothed man's glabella supported a land of sabers. This was undoubtedly a spiritual sea phenomenon. At the same time, the cultivators who rushed over from afar also changed their expressions. They could not help but swallow their saliva. Clang! 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 The sabers clanged. The black-clothed man stared at the land of sabers and walked over. Dense sabers rose from the ground, shining with a cold light. In the next moment, the dense sabers vibrated and attacked Lin Tian together. Lin Tian felt pain between his glabella and hurriedly retreated. Light shone from his glabella, and a lotus sea appeared. It was black and white, stirring yin and yang, and moved forward. Spiritual sea phenomenon, yin-yang lotus sea. The black-clothed man was moved, but his eyes became colder. More sabers rushed up and slashed at Lin Tian. Lin Tian's mind shook, and the yin-yang lotus sea shook. Dense lotus petals floated out and rushed forward. Clang! A crisp sound was heard. His lotus petals were blocked and could not be slashed out. At the same time, a saber descended from the sky and pressed down on him. Lin Tian's expression changed slightly, and he dodged quickly. As expected, his saber can block my yin-yang twin lotus even though we're both spiritual sea phenomenons, he muttered to himself. Clang! 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 The sound of the saber was ear-piercing. The spiritual sea phenomenon above the black-clothed man's head was like a land of sabers, slashing everything in its path. Lin Tian's eyes shone with a bright light and his battle blood boiled. The yin-yang lotus sea faced it directly. Walala! The sea of lotuses swayed gently as black and white lotuses rose into the air. Each lotus petal was like a divine weapon. This, so strong! Black and white, yin and yang intertwined. That Lin Tian actually knows such methods? That black-clothed man has a saber mountain above his head. He's like a saber god. They seem to be at the 8th level of the spiritual sea now, but their combat strength. Everyone was shocked. At this moment, even some of the powerful rogue cultivators at the 3rd level of the Zephyr realm couldn't help but be moved. Their hearts beat wildly, and a strong sense of powerlessness rose. These people felt that if they rushed over now, they would be killed instantly. What a monster! Some of the Zephyr Realm powerhouses smiled bitterly. In front of them, the saber trembled and the Lotus Sea was full of power. The two different spiritual sea phenomenons collided, and the space shook. Both of their eyes were cold, like sabers and swords, and they rushed together again. Clang! 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 The spiritual sea phenomenons collided with each other, and the saber and sword in their hands were also constantly clashing. Cough! Lin Tian coughed up blood. His abdomen was pierced by a sharp saber light, and blood was flowing out. His eyes were cruel. He faced the saber light, and the long sword in his hand slashed down mercilessly. The black-clothed man blocked with his long sword, but Lin Tian's fist arrived at the same time, landing firmly on his chest. Crack! The sound of bones breaking was heard. The black-clothed man also coughed up blood, and his clothes were torn. However, their eyes became sharper and colder. Two waves of tyrannical true essence surged. In the blink of an eye, the two of them rushed together again, killing each other. In the blink of an eye, 15 minutes passed. Boom! True essence raged. The two figures collided, and then they were both sent flying. Lin Tian was covered in blood. His face was pale, and he was panting heavily. His true essence was almost exhausted, and the spiritual sea phenomenons were shattered. He could no longer hold on. On the other side, the black-clothed man was not much better. His clothes were torn, and his chest was dyed red with blood. It was obvious that his chest had caved in a little. His spiritual sea phenomenons had also dissipated. The two of them stared at each other, panting heavily. However, their eyes were sharper than a saber. Sharper than a sword. Both of them are almost at their limits. Are they going to start the final battle now? It seems so. They only have the strength for one move. Many people swallowed their saliva and stared ahead, afraid to miss any details. A battle of this level was rare. It was almost comparable to a battle between young heavenly venerables. Lin Tian took a deep breath. The treasure sword in his right hand vibrated, and the sword light flashed. The black-clothed man moved his right leg backward and raised his long saber. The sound of a saber rang out. Whoosh! Whoosh! The sound of air breaking rang out. The two of them attacked together, rushing toward each other. The sword in Lin Tian's hand was surrounded by flames. The sword light soared as he used the 9th stroke of the burning sun. However, in the next moment, his expression changed. He withdrew his sword and quickly retreated. At the same time, the black-clothed man frowned and stopped in his tracks. Whoosh! 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 Almost at the same time, dozens of sharp arrows rushed from not far away, heading straight for Lin Tian's limbs. Lin Tian's eyes were cold, but his speed was extremely fast. He narrowly avoided the arrows. Your spiritual sense is really good! A mocking voice rang out. Dozens of figures walked out from not far away. The leader was a young man in fine clothes. He was extremely handsome and had a strong aura. Xinqianyu! Lin Tian's eyes turned cold. He recognized the young man in fine clothes. He was the one who had gambled alchemy skills with him at Wuji Gate not long ago. In the distance, the cultivators also recognized the group of people. They were all shocked. They seemed to be from the Shen family. The Shen family? The Shen family, one of the 3 major alchemist families? Yes. Someone whispered. Chapter 354. Staring at Xinqianyu's group, Lin Tian's face was gloomy. He didn't expect that the Shen family would chase him all the way here. He naturally knew the purpose of the Shen family. Fortunately, I came here to take a look. Otherwise, I would have missed the best opportunity to suppress and capture you. Xinqianyu sneered. Behind Xinqianyu, dozens of people looked gloomy. They were all outstanding members of the younger generation of the Shen family. The Shen family is also chasing Lin Tian. Strange, why? Is it also for that weapon control technique? Many people whispered. Lin Tianwei's face was gloomy. He clenched the sword in his hand even tighter. After the battle with the black-clothed man, his current situation was very bad. His Jin Yuan was less than 10%. The Shin family's arrival at this time made him feel a great sense of danger. However, he didn't show any worry on his face. I have already killed the 7 heroes of the Bai family. How dare a group of trash like you appear in front of me? Are you looking for death? He said. Shin Chinyu snorted coldly. Don't pretend to be strong. You are very strong, but how much combat power do you have at your peak? Do you think you can stop us? Shin Chinyu smiled and said. However, this young master has always been cautious. Shin Chinyu looked at the black-clothed man on the side and said with a smile. Your Excellency must have something to do with him. Why don't we cooperate? After we capture him, you can take what you want from him first, and then hand him over to the Shin family. Lin Tian's fierce reputation has spread throughout the second heaven. He even killed the 7 heroes of the Bai family. Although he looked very embarrassed now, after all, a skinny camel is still bigger than a horse. Although Shin Chinyu is proud of himself, he still seemed to be a little cautious at this time. He saw the black-clothed man fighting with Lin Tianyi. Although he didn't know the origin of the other party, since he can fight with Lin Tianyi until now, his combat power is naturally not weak. Therefore, he wanted to use the black-clothed man to force Lin Tian into a desperate situation. He believed that as long as the black-clothed man nodded, they could easily suppress Lin Tian in half an hour. Lin Tian's eyes narrowed as a wisp of coldness flashed within them. This Shin Chinyu's thoughts were rather meticulous at this moment. The black-clothed man stared at Lin Tian, the long blade in his hand glowing with a cold light. There was blood on the corner of his mouth, but his eyes were indifferent. That black-clothed young man is not the slightest bit weaker than Lin Tian. From the situation just now, it would be difficult to determine the victor if the two of them fought normally. However, at this moment, if that black-clothed young man joins forces with the Qin clan, he will definitely win. Lin Tian will definitely be finished. That madman seems to be in trouble. Many people whispered. Shin Chinyu smiled and looked at the black-clothed man. Your Excellency, what do you think? Don't worry, my Shin family has a good reputation. After we suppress him, we will let you find what you want, and then I will take him away. The black-clothed man looked at Lin Tian. His eyes were still indifferent, and he didn't respond. Shin Chinyu frowned slightly. Your Excellency, my words, you, clang! A saber light slashed over, and Shin Chinyu's expression changed greatly. He quickly took out a supreme treasure sword and slashed down. With a boom, the blade was shattered. Shin Chinyu staggered back, and a trace of bright red appeared at the corner of his mouth. What do you mean? Staring at the black-clothed man, Shin Chinyu was shocked and angry. His face was cold. The black-clothed man didn't even look at Shin Chinyu. His expression didn't change from beginning to end. He stared coldly at Lin Tian. Don't die. After saying this, the black-clothed man turned and walked away. He rejected the Shin family? This is such a good opportunity. Why did the black-clothed man fight with Lin Tian? I don't know. Strange. Many people were surprised. Lin Tian's eyes flashed. He looked deeply at the black-clothed man's back. Although this man was cold and domineering, he was open and above-board. Tilting his head, he looked towards Shin Chinyu as his eyes narrowed slightly. From the looks of it, the black-clothed man's yuan energy was almost completely depleted. Otherwise, how could a second-rate person like Shin Chinyu possibly receive that blade strike from before? Time to go! He whispered in his heart. He didn't hesitate. Then, he quickly flashed into the distance. Now, his vital essence was almost depleted. It would be very dangerous to face the Shin family directly. Young Master Shin, he escaped! Someone shouted. Shin Chinyu was shocked. He glanced coldly at the black-clothed man's back. He didn't have time to seek revenge. He shouted, Go after him! Immediately, the sound of air being torn apart resounded. The Shin clan's people all charged out and chased after Lin Tian. Don't even think about escaping! The Shin family shouted. Lin Tian's face was dignified. He quickened his pace and escaped. Normally, he wouldn't put these Shin family disciples in his eyes. No matter how many came, he would kill them all. But now, he couldn't. After the fight with the black-clothed man, he was seriously injured. His vital essence was almost depleted, and his combat power was less than 10% of his heyday. Under such circumstances, facing dozens of cultivators in the Sea of Consciousness realm was undoubtedly a difficult situation. Clang! A sword light slashed and fell at his feet. The people from the Shin clan quickly caught up. Someone activated his alchemic fire. Even though it was only the lowest grade of yellow, when more than 10 people gathered together, the attack power was still very fierce. The scorching temperature caused the air to sizzle. With a buzz, one of them brandished a long spear and pierced Lin Tian's neck. Lin Tian dodged. He grabbed the long spear with his left hand and punched with his right hand. You, Puff! Although he was seriously injured, his strong physique didn't weaken much. Ordinary people couldn't resist it at all. Be careful. His physique is strong. Don't get close! Shin Qingyu shouted. Shin Qingyu wasn't the strongest person in this generation of the Shin family, but his status was extraordinary. At this moment, he stood at the outermost circle and gave orders. Lin Tianlin coldly glanced at Shin Qingyu. He waved the long spear in his hand, shook off a piece of alchemy fire, and rushed into the distance again. Today, you are doomed to die! Shin Qingyu sneered. With this order, the Shin clan's members sped up, forming an encirclement as they chased after Lin Tian. The sword light was dense, and the yellow alchemy fire was surging, cutting off Lin Tian's escape route. Whoosh! 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 In the distance, someone pulled a bow, and a black arrow flew toward Lin Tian. Lin Tianyi shook the long spear and threw it directly into the distance. With his strong physique, the long spear shook off the arrow and pierced into the body of a Shin family member. After that, Lin Tian didn't stop. He rushed into the distance again. You can't escape, Shin Qingyu said coldly. Whoosh! 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 Dense arrows came again, and at the same time, powerful martial arts techniques fell. Lin Tian's face changed. He didn't have enough genuine essence, so he could only roll on the ground to avoid the arrows. Then he hit the light of the martial arts techniques that swept toward him. Boom! He forcibly activated the Nirvana fist and punched another member of the Shin family to death. However, he was also swept by the light of the martial arts techniques that came from the corner. Suddenly, there were a few more bloody wounds on his body. At this moment, the Shin family had completely surrounded him. Shouts and the sound of precious weapons echoed. The crowd rushed forward together. Alchemy flames vibrated, and sword lights intertwined. Lin Tian grabbed a sword from a person and swung it, sending 3 members of the Shin family flying. However, at the same time, another Shin family member's long spear pierced his abdomen. If he hadn't reacted quickly, he would have been pierced through by this attack. Even so, this attack still made him feel very uncomfortable. His face was cold. He held the long spear and cut off the head of the spear-wielding person. I didn't expect to be forced to this point by a group of trash, he said coldly to himself. After cutting off the spear-wielding person, he didn't hesitate and fled into the depths of the old forest again. Although he was a little sullen at this moment, he was very clear that he couldn't stay and fight. Otherwise, he would die. In the next 4 hours, Lin Tianyi fled. With his thin genuine essence and severely injured body, he killed more than 10 members of the Shin family. However, he also had more wounds on his body. He looked even more miserable. You're really stubborn. Let's see how long you can run, Shin Qingyu sneered. The members of the Shin family surrounded him. They were all excited, and their eyes were shining. At this moment, Lin Tian was at the end of his rope. They could definitely take him down. Once they took Lin Tian back to the family, it would be a great achievement. Lin Tian was covered in blood. He stepped back, and his eyes were as cold as knives. If I don't die today, your Shin family will never have a day of peace, he said coldly. Looking at Lin Tian's eyes, Shin Qingyu couldn't help but tremble. He suddenly thought of all the things that the Bai family had been through. For a moment, he felt a chill run down his spine. However, this was only for a moment. The next moment, Xinqianyu returned to normal. He stared coldly at Lin Tian. Do you think you can escape today? I'll tell you the truth. The airborne realm members of the Shin family are already on their way here. There is no way you can escape. Lin Tian's eyes were cold, and he immediately ran away. Soon, another 2 hours passed. Within 2 hours, Lin Tian had once again killed several members of the Shin family despite his heavy injuries. He himself had suffered a few more heavy blows, and his entire body was drenched in blood. Even his hair had been dyed red by the blood. It was also at this time that a strong wave of spiritual ether descended from the sky. A middle-aged man in a yellow robe descended from the sky. Sixth uncle! Xinqianyu said happily. The airborne realm member of the Shin family had arrived. His entire body was surrounded by an amazing aura of pills. He was a powerful grade 4 alchemist. Looking around, the middle-aged man in the yellow robe had a flash of light in his eyes. He nodded at Xinqianyu and said, Well done! As soon as he finished speaking, the middle-aged man in the yellow robe turned his head and stared at Lin Tian. Come back with me, and you won't have to suffer any physical pain. When we get the art of alchemy that we want, we'll give you a quick death and hand your head to the Bai family. The middle-aged man said coldly. Lin Tian's heart was heavy, but his expression did not change. There was even a hint of sarcasm in his eyes. If you kill me after getting the art of alchemy from me, you won't have to worry about the art of alchemy falling into the hands of others. You can also give my head to the Bai family in exchange for a huge favor from the ancient family. You Shin family sure know how to scheme. The middle-aged man in the yellow robe snorted coldly and did not say anything else. He directly stepped towards Lin Tian. Lin Tian gritted his teeth. His current situation was very bad, and there was no way he could stop the airborne realm member. Without hesitation, he stepped on the ground and directly fled into the distance. You still want to run? The middle-aged man in the yellow robe waved his hand and directly slapped out a huge handprint. Lin Tian's expression changed. He gritted his teeth and resisted, but he was immediately thrown more than 15 meters away. He spat out a mouthful of blood. The middle-aged man in the yellow robe walked forward and said indifferently, The end is already decided. Why struggle and make trouble for yourself? Lin Tian struggled to stand up. He only felt that his internal organs had shifted positions, and the pain was unbearable. However, he forced himself to endure it. He supported his severely injured body and once again fled into the distance. Humph! A hint of sarcasm flashed in the eyes of the middle-aged man in the yellow robe. He stretched out his hand and directly grabbed Lin Tian. Vigorous spiritual ether surged. This palm completely covered Lin Tian on the spot. Hey! This is over! Ha ha! Everyone in the Shin family laughed. At this time, they looked at Lin Tian as if they were looking at a divine treasure of their family, or as if they were looking at a dead body. Lin Tian's expression changed, and his back became cold. Now that he was severely injured and his spiritual ether was almost depleted, he was unable to fight at all. Damn it! He gritted his teeth. At this moment, a fierce palm wind fell from the sky, and with a bang, the middle-aged man in the yellow robe was blasted more than 30 meters away. A figure shrouded in a black cloak appeared and fell from the sky, firmly blocking in front of Lin Tian. Go! A low voice came from the cloak. Lin Tian's expression suddenly changed. He recognized this familiar voice. It was the Wuji Peak Master. End of chapter. Chapter 355. Everyone from the Shin family was shocked. They never thought that such an unforeseen event would occur at such a time. Who's there? The middle-aged man in the yellow shirt walked back. There was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. He looked gloomy. Under the cloak, the master of the Wuji Peak didn't respond. He whispered to Lin Tian. The sect leader asked me to apologize to you. He hopes you can live on. Let's go! Lin Tian frowned and clenched his fists slightly. "Thank you," he said seriously. Enduring the pain, he got up and ran away. The middle-aged man in the yellow shirt raised his eyebrows and said, "You want to leave? Stop him!" Suddenly, the disciples of the Shen family chased after Lin Tian. Clang! The master of the Wuji Peak made his move. He split the ground with his sword, and a 30-meter-long sword mark appeared in front of the Shen family. Such a terrifying sword made everyone in the Shen family turn pale. They stopped in their tracks. "Who are you? Why are you an enemy of the Shen family?" the middle-aged man in the yellow shirt said in a low voice. With a simple sword, the middle-aged man in the yellow shirt could see how powerful the man under the cloak was. He was far from being able to defeat him. The master of the Wuji Peak didn't say anything. He just stood in front of the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man in the yellow shirt wanted to go around and chase after Lin Tian. Unfortunately, he was powerless. "Sir, you are an enemy of the Shen family," the middle-aged man in the yellow shirt said in a low voice. The master of the Wuji Peak didn't say anything. He still stood in the same place. With a sword in his hand, he shocked everyone in the Shen family. Lin Tian had walked far away. Soon, he found an absolutely secluded place. He took out some elixirs from the stone ring and put them in his mouth. Then, he started to heal his injured body. "This time, I am really indebted to the master of the Wuji sect," he said to himself. He knew very well that if the master of the Wuji Peak hadn't arrived, he would have been taken away by the middle-aged man in the yellow shirt. The only ending was death. When he thought of the middle-aged man in the yellow shirt, he thought of the Shen family. His eyes suddenly became cold. Taking a deep breath, he circulated the 4 extremities meridians with all his might to dissolve the Baodan in his body. His injuries were quickly alleviated. "Enter the 9th layer first, then enter the Zephyr step," he muttered to himself. A bright light flashed in his eyes as he calmed down and circulated the 4 extreme scriptures over and over again. That was the supreme body-tempering divine art of the mysterious iron sword. It was also a manual for cultivation, which was enough to support him all the way to the end of the airborne realm. At this moment, he swallowed a Baodan and circulated his 4 extremities meridians, rapidly nourishing his internal organs. Very quickly, 6 hours passed. 6 hours later, with the help of some Baodan in the stone ring, his injuries were completely healed. His spirit had also become stronger. At this time, the sky had already darkened. Lin Tian looked outside, quietly stood up, and left in the dark night. Although the master of Wuji Peak had stopped the Shen family, he couldn't stop them forever. He had stayed in this forest for a long time. Now that his injuries had recovered, it was better to move to another place for safety. In the dark night, the moonlight shrouded the earth, sprinkling a large area of silver light. Not long after Lin Tian left, there were warriors from the Shen family who found this place. The leader was at the 7th layer of the Zephyr step. "There are traces of someone here. It seems that he just left. It should be that person. Go after him. We must find him," the leader said. Suddenly, a group of warriors rushed behind him and quickly flashed in the old forest. At this time, Lin Tian had already gone far away and walked out of the old forest. He carried the black robe on his back and made his way through the night. He climbed over several tall mountains and soon after, he appeared in another old forest and found another hidden place. He carefully looked around until he was sure that nothing was out of place. Only then did he sit down quietly. He took out the shackling rune and pasted it on his brow. With the full moon in the sky, he circulated the 4 extremities meridians and directly immersed himself in cultivation. Voom! Faint silver light flickered. In his sea of consciousness, the power of his consciousness boiled bit by bit, as if there was a fire burning. The sea of consciousness was to refine one's consciousness. Only by refining one's consciousness to a certain degree of purity and producing a qualitative change could one enter the Zephyr step. Under the night sky, Lin Tian held his breath and focused, wholeheartedly refining his divine sense. In these past few days, he'd experienced many battles, and he gained a great deal of comprehension. Especially the battle with the black-clothed man, it caused him to have a rather deep feeling. Because of the many experiences, his essence, energy, and spirit had unknowingly strengthened a lot. The flow of his true essence was also smoother. In this situation, his cultivation level began to loosen up. This situation was most suitable for cultivation. The silver light intertwined outside. In his sea of consciousness, the yin-yang twin lotus swayed, releasing a little bit of light. This light intertwined in his sea of consciousness and actually guided the power in his body, helping him to refine his consciousness. Following that, the light outside his body became more condensed. At most half a month, I can enter the 9th layer of the sea of consciousness and enter the Zephyr step with the Zephyr pill. Lin Tian's eyes flashed. Taking a deep breath, he put away the light in his eyes and once again immersed himself in cultivation. The light lingered outside his body, gradually becoming brighter, and the aura he exuded gradually became stronger. It was as if a wisp of flame was gradually turning into a sea of fire. In the 2nd heaven, the young cultivators of the Shen family secretly searched for Lin Tian's traces, rummaging through various mountains. They even invited many experts to help, but it was still difficult to find Lin Tian's real body. At the same time, many powerhouses of the Bai family also came out to search for Lin Tian's traces. In such a large heaven, if that person really wants to hide, how can it be easy to find him? Yes. However, Lin Tian's current situation is really dangerous. Nonsense, basically, the whole world is an enemy. It's scary just thinking about it. Many cultivators were discussing. The 2nd heaven is very large, and the Bai family and the Shen family also know that it is like looking for a needle in a haystack to find a person in this heaven. However, even so, the people of the two families still did not give up, especially the people of the Bai family. Each of them had a shocking killing intent, causing some rogue cultivators to tremble when looking at them from a distance. Time passed, and soon 10 days passed. During these 10 days, the Bai family and the Shen family searched many places and found traces of Lin Tian several times, but they still couldn't find him. In the end, the Bai family's younger generation even released their voices in the world of cultivation, cursing Lin Tian for being a coward who only knew how to hole up like a turtle, not daring to openly roam the world, forcing Lin Tian to appear. Unfortunately, there was no result. As for the Shen family, they didn't find anything. In the 2nd heaven, Lin Tian walked through another mountain, found a cave, and sat down cross-legged in it. During these 10 days, he changed several secluded places, and every time, he narrowly avoided the people who were looking for him. When I step into the airborne realm, I will deal with you one by one, he said coldly. The 4 extreme scripture was activated, and a divine refining rune was applied, and his consciousness began to boil. Now, he had reached the peak of the 8th heavenly layer, and he was only one step away from the 9th heavenly layer. He calmed down and silently activated the 4 extreme scripture, focusing all his attention on the sea of consciousness, making his consciousness boil even more. Looking around, this sea of consciousness became wider, and his consciousness became purer, like the brilliance of the sun and the moon. Soon 3 days passed. Boom! On this day, a tyrannical aura spread out and rushed out from Lin Tian's body. Opening his eyes, Lin Tian exhaled heavily. After 13 days of hard work, he finally stepped into the 9th heavenly layer. Let's begin the last step. His eyes flashed. Taking a deep breath, he took out a thumb-sized Baodan from the stone ring. This Baodan was purple and crystal clear. It was the 4th grade airborne pill that he and Bai Qiu obtained in the ancient alchemist's tomb more than a month ago. This Baodan was extremely precious. After swallowing it, a cultivator could perfectly reach the airborne realm from the 9th heavenly layer. The 4 extreme scripture stabilized the cultivation of the 9th heavenly layer, making the spiritual ether more peaceful. Then, he swallowed the airborne pill. As soon as the airborne pill entered his mouth, a rich fragrance spread out. Lin Tianji felt a warm air spread in his body, and then, this warm air directly penetrated his sea of consciousness like a hot spring. Suddenly, a huge storm appeared in his calm sea of consciousness, and his spiritual ether began to boil crazily. The fourth-grade airborne pill was a type of Baodan. It was the strongest Baodan to temper one's spiritual ether. Now, after Lin Tian swallowed this Baodan, the spiritual ether in his sea of consciousness became active, like boiling water, jumping around. Gradually, his spiritual ether became stronger and purer. Huff! Lin Tian closed his eyes and exhaled white smoke from his mouth, like a celestial being. Time passed by minute. After swallowing the airborne pill, the treasure chi in the pill penetrated his sea of consciousness, making his spiritual ether feel like it was burning above a fire source, and it became pure little by little. Moreover, during this entire process, Lin Tian's internal organs, bones, flesh, and blood had become translucent. Strands of warm energy flowed through them, causing his flesh, blood, and internal organs to become even stronger. The airborne pill not only refined the spiritual ether, but also helped to temper the body. Very quickly, another 2 days passed. 2 days later, Lin Tian's spiritual ether finally became completely pure, and his sea of consciousness became calm again. The yin-yang twin lotus swayed slightly in his sea of consciousness. After this, Lin Tian's heart suddenly trembled, and he felt as if a door had burst open in his body. A vast and majestic power gushed out, instantly spreading throughout his body and flowing to every corner. Lin Tian opened his eyes, and there was a flash of light in them. He slowly stood up. He clenched his fist slightly, and his 5 fingers cracked. His physique became several times stronger, and it seemed to be harder than King Kong. His spiritual ether vibrated, and there was a faint sound of wind and thunder coming from his body. His spiritual ether was boiling like the Yellow River. His glabella lit up with a thought, and the tyrannical spiritual ether seemed to be about to rush out like a sharp sword. Finally, Lin Tian took a deep breath and raised his hands slightly. His feet slowly left the ground, and he slowly rose into the air. He hovered in the air, and it took him dozens of breaths to truly master flying in the air, reaching a height of 150 feet above the ground. This is the airborne realm. He clenched his fists. In half a month's time, he relied on the airborne pill to reach the airborne realm. At this moment, he felt that he was more than 10 times stronger than he was half a month ago. His physique was more solid, and his spiritual ether was more abundant. It was as if he had endless strength. Most importantly, at this moment, he stood in the air on his own, and he truly felt as if he had transcended the mortal world. Lin Tian's eyes flashed with excitement, and then there was a flash of coldness in them. "It's time to go mess with someone," he said coldly. He tilted his head and looked out of the old forest. The corner of his mouth lifted, and he stepped into the air, walking out of the old forest step by step. Boom! At this moment, the sky shook, and there was a sudden clap of thunder. Lin Tian felt a chill run down his spine for no reason. It was as if he was being stared at by a pair of invisible eyes, and his entire body was cold. He looked up at the sky. He did not know when, but the sky within a radius of 300 feet had become pitch black. Dark clouds gathered, forming a huge vortex. Lightning flashed and crackled in the middle. Chapter 356. Dark clouds gathered, covering the space within a radius of 300 meters. The entire area where Lin Tian was at had turned pitch black. The dark clouds gathered, and bolts of lightning intertwined within them like terrifying lightning dragons. Boom! Thunder rumbled, and a pale light flashed across the sky. The destructive aura spread in all directions, and the Shifang ancient forests became deathly silent in an instant. Not a single sound could be heard. Lin Tian's expression changed, and a chill ran down his spine. At this moment, he felt as if a primitive mountain was pressing down on his head, making it hard for him to breathe. What's going on? What is this? He was terrified. Now, he wouldn't be afraid even if he faced someone in the immortal realm. But now, looking at the sky, he felt an instinctive fear. Gritting his teeth, he didn't hesitate. He stepped on the void and rushed into the distance, trying to leave the range of the thunderclouds. He was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, he was dozens of feet away. Boom! The sky shook, and thunder rumbled, making Lin Tian tremble. Looking at the sky, Lin Tian was shocked to find that he was still in the center of the thunderclouds. Bian, this thundercloud, was actually chasing after him. It was as if there was a pair of eyes in the clouds staring at him. Boom! Thunder rumbled, one after another. Each sound was scarier than the last, and each was fiercer than the last. Dong! Boom! Finally, a bolt of lightning struck down from the thunderclouds. It went straight for Lin Tian's head. Lin Tian's expression changed. He took out his upper-grade true treasure sword and slashed with the 8th stroke of the incinerating sun stroke without hesitation. A fierce sword light slashed toward the sky. However, this bolt of lightning was too powerful. It was like a destructive attack from an immortal realm elite. It crushed the 8th stroke of the incinerating sun stroke and the upper-grade true treasure sword. Then, with a bang, Lin Tian fell from the sky to the ground. Cough! Lin Tian coughed up blood. Half of his clothes were torn, and huge cracks appeared on the ground. He struggled to stand up. His chest was a little charred, and there was a burning and intense pain. Staring at the sky, the 4 extremities scripture circulated madly, rapidly healing his injured body. He looked around, gritted his teeth, and fled into the distance again, wanting to leave the range of the thunderclouds. However, after dozens of breaths, he had no choice but to stop. This was because no matter how he ran, no matter how fast he ran, he could not leave the range of the thundercloud. No matter how far he ran, he was still at the center of the thundercloud. Damn it! He clenched his fists tightly, his expression somewhat ugly. He had finally stepped into the Zephyr realm with great difficulty. But who would have thought that he would encounter such a strange thing and be struck by lightning for no reason? Suddenly, Lin Tian's heart skipped a beat. Lightning gathering in the sky, could this be the heavenly tribulation that the old man was talking about? Lin Tian stared at the sky and shook his head. No! The old man said that the heavenly tribulation is a reaction of the great path caused by the transformation of spiritual ether and divine power after entering the celestial reaching realm. It is called a natural disaster on the path of cultivation. I've only just entered the airborne realm, so how could I cause a heavenly tribulation? Dong! The sky trembled, and the lightning flashed even more dazzlingly. Lin Tian stared at the sky, his face a little pale. But what else could this be other than a heavenly tribulation? At this moment, another thunder was heard, and the sky became even darker. A second lightning bolt struck down. Lin Tian's expression changed, and he did not dare to be careless this time. He immediately activated the seal of the 4 symbols, condensing a dazzling diagram to meet the lightning bolt that was coming down. PFFTT! With a soft sound, the seal of the 4 symbols was shattered into nothingness. Lin Tian's expression changed, and he used the yin and yang to dodge. However, that lightning bolt seemed to have eyes, and his escape was futile as it landed on him steadily. Lin Tian was sent flying. This time, his injuries were even more severe. His chest was a bloody mess, and there was a burning smell coming out. Damn it! Lin Tian gritted his teeth and stood up. He took out a large number of healing pills and spiritual ether bowdan from the stone ring and swallowed them, then used the Sutra of 4 Extremes to regulate his breathing. His face was pale as he stared at the sky. No matter how much he did not want to believe it, he had to believe it at this moment. That was indeed a heavenly tribulation. My spiritual ether has only changed a little when I stepped into the airborne realm, and I attracted a heavenly tribulation just like that. Lin Tian gritted his teeth. At this moment, he really had the urge to curse. The heavenly tribulation was known as a natural disaster on the path of cultivation, and it had killed countless people since ancient times. 99% of cultivators would be killed by the heavenly tribulation when they stepped into the reaching celestial realm. One could imagine how terrifying the heavenly tribulation was. Lin Tian stared at the sky, feeling very uncomfortable. Others would only attract the heavenly tribulation when they reached the reaching celestial realm, and they would usually be well prepared. At that time, their strength would be much stronger. However, he had attracted such a disaster when he stepped into the airborne realm. His cultivation had not reached the reaching celestial realm, and he was not strong enough. He did not even have the slightest bit of preparation to go through the heavenly tribulation. This was deliberately targeting him. Boom! Dark clouds rolled, and this time, an even more terrifying aura began to brew, spreading in all directions. Lin Tian's heart skipped a beat, and his back became even colder. Staring at the huge thundercloud vortex in the sky, he felt as if there was a chaotic realm being standing inside, staring at him coldly, preparing a truly devastating attack. Boom! Finally, thunder rumbled again, and the third lightning bolt fell. No, it was not accurate to call it one bolt. Looking around, with Lin Tian as the center, the area within a radius of 30 meters was completely covered. A dense sea of lightning fell. It seemed to be moving very slowly, but the ferocious power was shocking. Lin Tian felt severe pain all over his body even though he was far away. The ground under his feet even began to shatter. The soil and gravel seemed to be pulled by something, flying high into the sky on their own before shattering. This was a great force of destruction. Lin Tian's heart was cold. He wanted to escape the range of this sea of lightning, but in the end, he stopped in his tracks. Since he knew this was a heavenly tribulation, he knew that there was no use in escaping. Now, he could only defeat the heavenly tribulation, survive the heavenly tribulation, or be turned into ashes. There were only 3 endings. Damn it! Gritting his teeth, he raised his hand to form a seal. Behind him, a desolate mountain, a treasure weapon bell, and a dense old forest rushed out. With a boom, several divine elephants of heaven rushed toward the sea of lightning in the sky. The two collided, and the divine elephants of heaven shattered with a crack. The sea of lightning directly covered Lin Tian. Lin Tian desperately condensed the Tao diagram of the 4 symbols to protect himself, but it was useless. It shattered on the spot. Dense lightning bolts fell, crushing the earth in the first moment, and the surrounding old trees instantly collapsed. For the first time, Lin Tian let out a scream. His whole body was completely covered by the sea of lightning. Blood gushed out of his mouth. Large areas of his skin became charred, and his body was covered in blood. His clothes were tattered beyond recognition. Lin Tian gasped for breath, and his face became extremely pale. Now that he had stepped into the Zephyr realm, his strength was astonishing. However, under the heavenly tribulation, he had no ability to resist at all. Gritting his teeth, Lin Tian struggled to stand up again. At this time, his body was covered in injuries. A few of his bones were even broken, and blood kept flowing. His body would feel intense pain if he moved slightly. Even so, he did not dare to lie still. He quickly ran the 4 extremities meridians to the limit, and then relied on the Baodan and the stone ring to heal his injuries and stop the bleeding. If he moved, there was still a chance of survival. If he did not move, he could only wait for death. I don't believe that I can't get through it. He gritted his teeth. After swallowing a large amount of Baodan and running the 4 extremities meridians crazily, the intense pain suddenly eased a lot. Right at this moment, a thunderous boom rang out again. It was still a sea of lightning that fell mercilessly. Boom! Lin Tian gritted his teeth, and a violent surge of true essence rushed out of his body. He quickly formed a seal and used the divination divine technique to create the barren heaven world, divine roar palace, and 9 springs sword. Then, he activated Heavenly Lord Doran's place of enlightenment, and used the powerful divination divine elephant to meet the sea of lightning above his head. The two collided fiercely. Whoosh! 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 Large amounts of lightning and fire appeared in the void. More cracks appeared on the ground of the old forest where Lin Tian was. In just 2 breaths, the barren heaven world and divine roar palace shattered, and the 9 springs sword did not escape its fate. In the blink of an eye, only Heavenly Lord Doran's place of enlightenment did not collapse. Hum! In the meantime, the word, Dauren, flowed with divine light and collided with the sea of lightning. However, it did not last long. After 6 breaths, with a crack, Lin Tian's place of enlightenment also shattered. The hurricane swept and the sea of lightning fell, enveloping Lin Tian again. Crack! 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 The ground shattered and split open. Blood splattered in the air. Lin Tian was injured again. His body was covered in blood. It was a ghastly sight. Thump! The sky trembled and the 5th thunder sounded. In the whirlpool-like thunderclouds, purple lightning intertwined. It was like a giant dragon shuttling in and out. As if it had a life of its own, it caused the surrounding void to distort. Then, with a crack, 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 black spatial cracks appeared. Silver spatial turbulence poured out. Lin Tian's heart trembled. He could not help but tremble. This purple sea of lightning was like the manifestation of an ancient serpent dragon. It was far more terrifying than the previous 4 lightning strikes. After 3 breaths, with a boom, the purple sea of lightning pressed down. Lin Tian gritted his teeth. His expression was terrible. I'll crush you! He stepped on the ground and formed another seal with his hands. He moved quickly over and over again. Hum! Behind him, a blood-colored crack suddenly appeared. Bloody light bloomed, and the screams of ghosts came out. This was the technique that the Violet Elves had used to protect him in the dark forest. Lin Tian still remembered the terrifying feeling when the blood-colored crack appeared. It was like opening the door to hell. At this moment, he used the divination divine spell to create it. Immediately, the space around him trembled. Even the lightning falling from the sky paused for a moment. Chapter 357. As soon as the blood-colored crack appeared, a terrifying wave of energy spread out, causing the space to tremble. In the sky, the purple sea of lightning paused for a moment before striking down again. Rise! Lin Tian gritted his teeth. He formed a seal with his hands, and the blood-colored crack behind him rushed out. It suddenly expanded and swallowed a bolt of lightning. The two collided, and the blood-colored crack tried to expand as if it was going to swallow the entire sea of lightning. Boom! A clap of thunder rang out, causing the ground to crack and the void to distort. As if it had sensed the existence of a force that prevented the lightning from falling, the great path became angry. The purple sea of lightning swayed and emitted an even more terrifying aura, as if there were countless dragons roaring. The blood-colored crack shook, and cracks immediately appeared around it. Lin Tian stepped back and felt a pain in his chest. He gritted his teeth and moved his hands again, heavy and slow. A vicious roar sounded from the blood-colored crack. Suddenly, a huge ghost claw reached out from it. It was eerie and terrifying. Cough! Lin Tian coughed up blood. He had used the divination divine technique to create the blood-colored crack. He was under great pressure and suffered a backlash. However, his eyes were very determined. He gritted his teeth and held on. In the blood-colored crack, the huge ghost claw covered the entire purple sea of lightning. Then, it directly pulled it into the blood-colored crack and exploded with a boom. Boom! A hurricane swept in all directions, and traces appeared in the void one after another. Lin Tian flew backward and crashed into a large rock not far away. He spat out another mouthful of blood. In the sky, the thunderclouds became even denser. Lightning interweaved within them, crackling loudly. At this time, with Lin Tian as the center, the ground within a radius of 300 feet was completely destroyed. Gravel and soil were everywhere, and broken branches of old trees were scattered everywhere. The ground even became a little charred as if it had been roasted by fire. Lin Tian felt as if his body was about to fall apart. He endured the pain and stood up. Looking at the sky, the thunderclouds were buzzing. The next wave of tribulation lightning was already gathering. Boom! The sound of thunder echoed in all directions. Finally, the 6th bolt of heavenly thunder was formed and fell. This time, there was only a single streak of lightning, but it was shockingly thick, as if a heavenly dragon was roaring. Wherever the tribulation lightning passed, the space in all directions would split apart, shattering completely. It descended at an extremely fast speed, arriving above Lin Tian in the blink of an eye. It mercilessly and cruelly enveloped Lin Tian within it. Ah! Lin Tian screamed as blood splattered everywhere. He supported all of his means, but he couldn't block this heavenly lightning at all. He was sent flying more than 30 meters away. In the blink of an eye, everything within a radius of 10 feet was completely shrouded in darkness. Lin Tian was lying on the ground. His entire body was scorched, and his flesh was lacerated. He was in an unprecedentedly miserable state. It could be said that he had lost half of his life. Even so, the thunder and lightning in the sky did not give him a chance to breathe. With a boom, the seventh heavenly tribulation struck down. The sound of rolling thunder resounded, ear-piercing and dazzling as it slowly pressed down. Crack! 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 Lin Tian lay on the ground. The ground was broken inch by inch, and large cracks spread out in all directions like a spider web. Staring at the light of tribulation descending from the sky, Lin Tian gasped for breath. At this moment, it was already difficult for him to stand up. He could only frantically urge his spiritual sense to manifest a huge lotus sea. Whoosh! The yin-yang twin lotus swayed. Under Lin Tian's will, it faced the heavens. This lotus sea was the result of 7 days of meditation by Lin Tian in the place where Lord Daoran achieved enlightenment. It was black and white, intertwined with yin and yang qi. It was very powerful. At this moment, he supported the lotus sea and faced the tribulation lightning. In an instant, the dense yin and yang qi surged like a vast sea, enveloping the heavenly lightning. However, although the lotus sea was extraordinary, it could not withstand the heavenly tribulation of the great path. Crack! After 3 breaths, with a crisp sound, the yin-yang lotus sea shattered. Then, the heavenly lightning fell, mercilessly striking Lin Tian's body. With a boom, with Lin Tian as the center, the entire ground suddenly shattered. When the smoke and dust dissipated, a huge pit with a diameter of 10 feet and a depth of 10 feet appeared on the ground. There were arcs of lightning intertwining in it. At the center of the deep pit, Lin Tian's clothes were torn, and blood kept flowing out of his mouth. At this moment, his skin was charred black, and his flesh was badly mangled. He could no longer be seen. He opened his mouth and immediately felt an intense pain. Blood flowed out of the corner of his mouth. At this moment, it was difficult for him to even make a sound. Dong! At this moment, thunder rumbled in the sky again. The 8th wave of tribulation lightning was born. The oppressive aura instantly spread in all directions. This was another sea of lightning. Purple lightning crackled, each as thick as a baby's arm. With a boom, the void shattered, and the sea of lightning directly pressed down. Lin Tian's expression changed. He struggled with difficulty, but he could not move. Not only was his body in pain, but also because of the terrifying pressure of the 8th wave of tribulation lightning. He could not move at all. He gritted his teeth and gathered his thoughts in the sea of consciousness, looking at the bottom of the sea of consciousness. Help me! He yelled in the sea of consciousness. At this moment, he had no power to resist at all. His only hope was that divine sword. However, when he looked at the bottom of the sea of consciousness, the divine sword did not move at all. It did not respond to his call at all. Dong! The thunder roared. Everywhere it passed, everything was shattered. Everything was annihilated. Lin Tian looked at the lightning in the sky pressing down on him. For the first time, he felt a sense of despair. At this moment, he could not even move, and he could not summon the divine sword. What else could he use to resist? Damn it! He roared angrily in his heart. Since ancient times, there had been hundreds of millions of cultivators, and it was difficult to count them. All of the people who were successful in their cultivation would only attract disasters of the great path when they broke through to the airborne realm. At this moment, however, he had only just broken through to the airborne realm, and he had attracted a heavenly tribulation. After being reincarnated, he had amazing talent and combat strength. He had not been afraid even when facing the ancient clans, and he had survived time and time again. Now, however, he was going to die under the inexplicable heavenly lightning. This made him feel extremely sullen. Arg! He roared in his heart. The heavenly tribulation did not stop. It became even more terrifying, pressing down on Lin Tian's head in an instant. Lin Tian was completely desperate. He could not help but close his eyes. Vroom! At this moment, his abdomen lit up. That was his origin. His origin was bright, quiet, and peaceful. At this moment, it was emitting a faint glow. This glow intertwined through his body and condensed into a hazy light pattern on his body. It showed several different colors and slowly rotated, protecting his burned and seriously injured body under it. Lin Tianji felt his whole body become comfortable, and he could not help but open his eyes. What is this? Looking at this scene, his eyes were filled with shock. This was not the reaction of the divine sword, nor was it his own means. It was the origin of life shining on its own. With a bang, the heavenly tribulation pressed down and directly hit the hazy light pattern outside his body. Lin Tian trembled violently, and then he was greatly shocked because this terrifying eighth wave of heavenly tribulation was completely blocked. The light pattern shook slightly, and the eighth wave of heavenly tribulation was actually reflected back to the sky, exploding in the thunderclouds with a boom. Lin Tian was shocked. The terrifying eighth wave of heavenly tribulation was actually reflected back by this light pattern. The hazy light pattern slowly rotated, and in the next moment, it dimmed, turned into a ray of light, and directly rushed into Lin Tian's body. Immediately, Lin Tian felt a warm current enter his body, quickly healing his injuries. In the blink of an eye, layers of halos appeared on the surface of his body. His charred skin peeled off on its own, revealing an intact body. His injuries were actually healed by 80% in an instant. Lin Tian clenched his fists and stood up. He felt a powerful force fill his body again. That light pattern just now was the manifestation of my origin? He stared at his abdomen. He scanned it with his divine consciousness. His life origin was no different from usual. It was still calm and did not fluctuate at all. At this moment, an extremely dull thunder sounded. Lin Tian felt a chill down his spine. He hurriedly looked at the sky and saw that in the dark thunderclouds, a lightning bolt with a diameter of 10 feet appeared. It was purple and aimed directly at him. Since ancient times, 9 has been the limit. This should be the last heavenly tribulation, Lin Tian thought to himself. Taking a deep breath, his eyes shone brightly, and his black hair swayed without wind. You want to kill me? Dream on! He gritted his teeth. He spread his hands and quickly formed a seal, activating the divining divine technique to the extreme. In an instant, the primitive mountain, the treasure weapon bell, the sea of clover, the barren heaven world, the divine cry temple, the 9 springs sword, the place where Heavenly Lord Daoran comprehended the Tao, and the blood-colored crack, all kinds of powerful divining divine images appeared. At the same time, he supported the Taoist diagram of the 4 symbols, the yin-yang lotus sea, and activated the weapon-controlling art. He used all his means to meet the 9th heavenly tribulation. Under the pressure of the 9th heavenly tribulation, the space shook and the ground collapsed. Several divining divine images were shattered, the Taoist diagram of the 4 symbols exploded, the yin-yang lotus sea was destroyed, and dozens of treasure weapons were torn apart. Boom! The light was vast, drowning everything. In the void, smoke and dust drifted, and electric arcs crackled. The ground was shattered beyond recognition. Lin Tian lay on the wasteland, his body covered in blood and scorched black again. His body was badly mutilated, and in many places, white bones could even be vaguely seen. It was a shocking sight. However, at this time, he smiled. Under the pressure of the 9th heavenly tribulation, he had survived. In the sky, the heavenly tribulation dissipated, and the world was restored to light. A 7-colored auspicious cloud gradually condensed. Within it, a gentle treasure light descended from the sky and enveloped Lin Tian within. Crack! 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 Lin Tian's body made a sound like soybeans being fried. Just like before, his injuries began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. In this kind of light, he felt indescribably comfortable. His flesh and blood seemed to be burning and buzzing. Just like that, dozens of breaths later, the light dissipated, and the cloud shattered. He stood up from the wasteland. At this moment, his body was flowing with a faint light. His skin was as white as a baby's, and his flesh was as clean as glass. He waved his fist slightly, and suddenly, the void shook, and the sound of thunder was heard. Good! Lin Tian couldn't help but exclaim. Chapter 358. Reading on the mobile phone, Lin Tian was pleasantly surprised, and he couldn't help but clench his fists again. Please search Product and Book Yen Network to see the most complete novel. The heavenly tribulation was very terrifying, but after passing it, it was like a fish leaping through the dragon gate, and it gave him great benefits. In terms of physique, I'm not afraid of anyone below the immortal ascension realm, Lin Tian muttered to himself. He looked around himself, feeling the changes in his body. He was pleasantly surprised. His array manipulation technique had broken through the 4th stage, reaching the 5th stage. His soul force had become stronger, and when he circulated it, it surged violently. Lin Tian thought to himself, "Very good," and changed into a clean set of clothes before looking around. Looking around, the land within a radius of dozens of feet was completely destroyed, and there was no intact ground, and it was all scorched black. Lin Tian paused, looked out of the forest, and walked out. After entering the airborne realm, he no longer had to hide. Now, he could walk proudly in the second heaven. Not long after, he walked out of the old forest and appeared on the road in the distance. People came and went on the road, and when they saw Lin Tian, they were all shocked. Lin Tian? That madman is actually here? Why didn't he hide at all? That Shen family has been looking for him recently. Damn, that madman is coming this way. Get out of the way. Some people were shocked. Lin Tian didn't hide his appearance now, and he was completely walking the world with his real body, so these people naturally recognized him at a glance. Suddenly, the crowd retreated together. During these days, Lin Tian's ferocious name had spread very well. Who knew how many lives he had reaped? He even dared to kill the geniuses of ancient families. He was simply a complete demon. How could these ordinary people not fear him? Lin Tian originally wanted to find someone to ask something, but seeing this situation, he could only helplessly shake his head. Along the road, he walked into the distance. He's finally gone! Speaking of which, where is he going? I don't know, it looks like he's just walking around casually, with no destination. It feels like he's just strolling. That does seem to be the case, but why doesn't this guy try to hide it? After all, during this period of time, the members of the Qin clan had been searching for him everywhere, and their forces were terrifying. Once he was found, then only death would await him. Wasn't he exposing his tracks by swaggering on the street that was densely packed with people right now? Isn't that too stupid? If the experts of the Bai family find out, it will be even worse. Exactly. Many people had strange expressions on their faces. Lin Tian was now extremely powerful, and his spiritual sense had increased by several times. Naturally, he could hear the discussions of these people. However, he did not mind at all. He appeared to be very leisurely, and even pulled up a stalk of grass from the ground and put it in his mouth to chew. Seeing his attitude, many rogue cultivators on the main road were dumbfounded. Don't you have any sense of crisis? Won't the people of the Shen family soon find out about it and come knocking on our door? That's right, someone muttered. Lin Tian's expression was calm. With a blade of grass in his mouth, he walked along the main road step by step. What? That damn thing appeared? That's right. It's on a main road 10 miles away from here. Go after it. The experts of the Shen family who were searching outside heard the news. Suddenly, all of them began to move. On the main road, Lin Tian looked at the white clouds in the sky, looked at the blue sky, and looked at the birds flying in the sky. He seemed very casual. Soon, a fork in the road appeared in front of him. There was a spacious grassland beside the fork. With a faint smile, he walked to the side and sat down on the grassland. Countless cultivators came and went at the fork every day. At this moment, naturally, there were people who recognized Lin Tian. They all widened their eyes and had an expression of disbelief. That Lin Tian actually appeared here? This guy didn't hide at all. The people of the alchemist family are frantically searching for him. Isn't he too bold? Isn't he afraid of being found? Many people stopped and stared straight at Lin Tian. During this period of time, Lin Tian had become famous. Now that he appeared naturally, he attracted everyone's attention. Lin Tian sat on the grassland leisurely. He squinted his eyes and looked at the round sun in the sky. He had an expression of enjoyment. Time passed, and soon, half an hour had passed. At this moment, dozens of strong waves of vitality came from afar. Someone was rushing towards this area. It's the people of the Shen family. Look at that middle-aged man in yellow. Shen Hui? I heard that he's a level 4 alchemist. He's also at level 3 of the Zephyr realm. The person in the lead seems to be Shen Lianyan, a level 4 alchemist at level 4 of the Zephyr realm. Everyone's expression changed. Seeing such a group of people rushing over, many people could not help but step back and open up a path. Dozens of people of the Shen family rushed over. The first thing they saw was Lin Tian on the grassland. Over there! Over there! Surround him! The group rushed forward, and in the blink of an eye, they arrived at the grassland. Finally, no more hiding, Shen Hui said. This Shen Hui was wearing a yellow robe. He was the middle-aged man who appeared last when the Shen family was chasing after Lin Tian. His strength was very strong. If it was not for the appearance of the Wuji Peak Master, Lin Tian would have been suppressed by this person. Beside Shen Hui stood another person. He was wearing a green robe. His name was Shen Lianyan. His strength was stronger than Shen Hui. He was at level 4 of the Zephyr realm. Both of them had a cold expression. Following them were dozens of young people. They were the best of the younger generation of the Shen family. Their cultivation was not bad. They were at level 5 of the Zephyr realm to level 9 of the Zephyr realm. At this moment, dozens of people surrounded Lin Tian in the middle. Each of them held a cold sword in their hands. They were shining with cold light. Lin Tian squinted his eyes and stood up slowly. Your reaction is not bad. You didn't let me wait for too long. However, why didn't the people of the Bai family come? He said. As soon as these words came out, the crowd of rogue cultivators at the fork in the road was shocked. This guy, what does he mean? Did he purposely walk out and wait for the people of the Shen family and the Bai family at this place? This is too arrogant. Many people were shocked. Not only the rogue cultivators, but also the people of the Shen family. He said he was waiting for us here? Big words. Who does he think he is? Arrogant. Self-righteous. A few of the younger generation of the Shen family mocked. Lin Tian did not even turn his head. He raised his right hand and swept out a dense sword gleam. Poof! 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 Suddenly, the few people who spoke were all penetrated and fell into a pool of blood. Shen Hui and Shen Lianyan suddenly had a cold and murderous look. They stared at Lin Tian mercilessly. Shen Hui took a step forward. A large purple flame appeared in his palm and pressed towards Lin Tian. The purple alchemy fire can even burn stones. Someone's expression changed. Shen Hui's expression was cold. Don't worry, this alchemy fire will only burn your meridians. It won't kill you. After all, we still need to get what we want from you. After finishing his words, Shen Hui appeared in front of Lin Tian. Suppress! Some of the young people of the Shen family shouted. Lin Tian calmly extended his hand and slapped down. Then I'm sorry, because I will kill you directly. It was just a normal slap. There was no movement of vitality, but it made the space buzz. With a sound, the purple alchemy fire that Shenhui displayed was extinguished. Shenhui's expression changed. You! Lin Tian's expression was calm. After the purple alchemy fire was extinguished, his right palm landed firmly on Shenhui's cheek. Suddenly blood splattered. Shenhui's skull was smashed into pieces. His brain matter was scattered all over the floor. Such a scene shocked everyone to the point that their expressions changed. He killed Shenhui with one slap? Shenhui was a master of the third heaven of the Yukong family. How could he be killed with one slap? How is this possible? How could his physique be so strong? How did he do it? Everyone was stunned. The young people of the Shen family were also shocked. A master of the third heaven of the Yukong family was killed in one move. Shen Lianyan's expression changed. I didn't expect your physique to be so strong. I was careless. Just careless? Lin Tian secretly mocked. Shen Lianyan's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He took a step forward and slashed at Lin Tian with his sword incantation. In an instant, a few hundred rays of sword light pressed down towards Lin Tian. Lin Tian calmly stepped back and avoided all the swords. There are some things that I want to know from the Shen family. One of you is enough, he said. He tilted his head slightly and glanced at the young people of the Shen family surrounding him. Looking at his eyes, the young people of the Shen family felt a chill down their spine. The next moment, a sword chime was heard. A treasured sword appeared in Lin Tian's hand. With a casual swing, the sword aura filled the sky. Puff! 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 The sword aura was overbearing and scorching. It was precise and terrifying. In an instant, streaks of blood splattered. The sound of banging was heard continuously. The young people of the Shen family were pierced in between their eyebrows and fell to the ground. Blood flowed and the scene was filled with the sound of people inhaling cold air. One sword killed all, except Shen Lianyan's, all of them. Someone trembled. Shen Lianyan was furious. The young people of the generation were killed just like that. It was a huge loss to the clan. After we get what our clan wants, we'll make you wish you were dead, Shen Lianyan said coldly. Shen Lianyan rushed out. His whole body was covered in purple alchemy fire. He even displayed a terrifying supernatural power. You knew that I could kill a Yukong cultivator, but you let a group of people from the Sea of Consciousness come to die. Who can you blame for your own stupidity? Lin Tian looked calm. The Jiuquan sword rushed behind him and pressed down. Shen Lianyan's purple alchemy fire was extinguished. His supernatural power was also shattered. He flew more than 10 feet away. How is this possible? Isn't this too monstrous? He is still a master of the 4th level of the Yukong cultivator. How could he be so weak? What a monster! How strong is that guy? Many people swallowed their saliva. Shen Lianyan fell to the ground. Blood kept coming out of his mouth, and his clothes were torn. Chapter 359. Reading with a mobile phone. Seeing that Shen Lianyan had escaped, the crowd near the crossroads were shocked. Did he escape? Did he escape from the 4th heaven of the Zephyr realm? Furthermore, he was fleeing through the air. Was Lin Tian's battle prowess really that terrifying? How could a 4th heaven of the Zephyr realm cultivator be so afraid of him? He said that he was waiting for the Shen family, and that he only needed one person to stay. What did he want to ask? Maybe, but now he can't ask even if he wanted to. That's right, a Zephyr realm cultivator can walk in the void like walking on flat ground. How could a Sea of Consciousness cultivator catch up with him? That's right, no matter how profound the art of instrument manipulation is, it's impossible to catch up. The difference is too big. Many people were discussing. These people stared at Lin Tian and were shocked by Lin Tian's strong combat power. He actually scared off a 4th heaven of the Zephyr realm cultivator. Lin Tian raised his head and looked at Shen Lianyan, who had escaped more than 10 feet away. His lips curled into a cold smile. With a swoosh, his figure disappeared and appeared in the void 10 feet above the ground. Then, his figure disappeared again and left a series of afterimages in the void. After 6 breaths, he blocked in front of Shen Lianyan. Shen Lianyan was stunned and his expression changed. Lin Tian actually chased after him and blocked in front of him. You! At this moment, Shen Lianyan felt a chill down his spine. Almost at the same time, the rest of the cultivators near the crossroads were shocked. This, flying by oneself, isn't this something that only a Zephyr Realm cultivator can do? Rumor has it that Lin Tian is only at the 8th heaven of the Sea of Consciousness. But now this is... Everyone's eyes were wide open. Staring at Lin Tian, who was stepping in the void, everyone was shocked. Flying by oneself, this was obviously the Zephyr Realm. Shen Lianyan was even more frightened. Without saying a word, he changed his direction and escaped into the distance again. At the same time, a golden bow appeared in Shen Lianyan's hand. He struggled to shoot a black arrow to stop Lin Tian's pursuit. The black arrow tore through the air. It was surrounded by a layer of light and emitted a whooshing sound. Its power was extremely shocking. Lin Tian narrowed his eyes. The aura of this arrow looked really tyrannical. He stepped through the void and grabbed the black arrow. Then, he appeared in front of Shen Lianyan in a flash. You get out! Lin Tian raised his hand and slapped out. Shen Lianyan coughed up blood and fell from the void. A loud bang was heard when he landed on the ground. He struggled to get up, but in the next moment, Lin Tian descended from the sky and stomped on his chest. Tell me where the Shen family is, who are the people in the clan, and how strong are they? Lin Tiantan said coldly. Shen Lianyan's expression changed. Why are you asking this? Lin Tian exerted force with his right leg and broke one of Shen Lianyan's ribs. Now I am the one asking you a question. Shen Lianyan was in pain and immediately let out a scream. Lin Tian grunted and did it himself. A ray of light rushed out from between his eyebrows and went straight into Shen Lianyan's sea of consciousness. When a cultivator reached the state of psyche, he could use his own consciousness to explore the sea of consciousness of others and find out their secrets. However, because the consciousness of the cultivator at the state of psyche was not very strong, most cultivators would not do this. Lin Tian's consciousness was very pure and strong. Now that he had reached the state of Zephyr, it was easy for him to use this technique. Shen Lianyan's expression changed when his sea of consciousness was invaded. He struggled madly. Lin Tian stomped him into the ground. After a while, Lin Tian's eyes flashed, and he retracted his consciousness. The Shen family is quite a distance away from this place. The 2 strongest people in the clan are the head of the family and the Taishang elder. The head of the family is at the beginning stage of Tongxian, and the Taishang elder is at the 2nd level of Tongxian. Now, both of them are in isolation and will only be out in about a month. Lin Tianwei squinted his eyes. 2 strong cultivators at the state of Tongxian, their basic strength was not much different from the top 10 sections. Shen Lianyan shouted when his sea of consciousness was being searched. Damn it, you, puff! Lin Tian waved his hand and the black arrow in his right hand pierced through Shen Lianyan's throat. Shen Lianyan's mouth was filled with blood. He struggled for a while and suddenly stopped moving. From afar, a group of onlookers were shocked. A strong cultivator at the 4th level of Zephyr was killed so easily. 2 strong cultivators of Zephyr were killed and a group of young talents were killed. The Shen family has suffered a great loss this time. This is not as bad as the Bai family, right? What do you know? Can the Shen family be compared to the ancient aristocratic families? How many strong cultivators of Zephyr are there in the clan? Every one of them is the pillar of the clan. The death of 2 strong cultivators of Zephyr and dozens of young talents is enough for the Shen family to feel sad for a while. Many of the rogue cultivators whispered. Lin Tian glanced at these people and then looked at the reddish-gold bow in Shen Lianyan's hand. He took the bow in his hand. It was very heavy, about 1,000 pounds. It was a top-grade treasure. With the bow in his left hand and the string in his right hand, Lin Tian tried to pull the string and was slightly surprised. With his current physical strength, it took a lot of effort to pull the bow into a full moon shape. At the same time, it also consumed a lot of vital vitality. No wonder Shen Lianyan had a hard time pulling the bow. He muttered to himself in a low voice, and then his eyes lit up a little. Since it takes a lot of energy to draw the bow, and it consumes a lot of true essence, then its power must be extraordinary. After thinking for a while, he pulled out the black arrow from Shen Lianyan's throat. The arrow was about 10 pounds. He put it on the bowstring and pulled the bow into a full moon shape. He aimed at a huge green rock 20 feet away and shot the arrow. With a swoosh, the black arrow was wrapped in a light screen of vital vitality. It flew like lightning, and with a bang, the huge green rock was shattered into powder. Lin Tian's eyes moved. The power was indeed very strong. From afar, the group of cultivators was stunned. It's just an arrow, and it shattered a huge rock that weighed 10,000 pounds? What kind of power is that? Even a cultivator at the peak of Zephyr would find it difficult to do that. Oh my God! How did that guy have such strong physical strength and vital vitality? Crazy! Demon! Many people were shocked. Lin Tian held the bow in his hand, and a glint flashed in his eyes. My physical body is very strong, and I don't have to worry about close-range combat. Now that I have such an extraordinary upper-grade supreme treasure bow, I can easily kill enemies from a distance with the help of the refined arrows. At the same time, the destructive power of this bow would be very impressive if it was used to destroy ordinary city walls and gates. As he thought of this, the corners of Lin Tian's mouth curled up slightly as he thought of the location of the Shen family. He took off Shen Lianyan's stone ring and used his vital vitality to explore it. He found that there were 2 more black arrows in it. Including the one from afar, there are only 3 arrows in total. It's too little, Lin Tian muttered to himself. He thought for a while and his eyes flashed. Let's go and find more refined arrows, then I'll go and find trouble with the Shen family. He walked to a distance and kept the black arrow. He did not stay and stepped into the void and left, walking in the air with ease. He has indeed reached the realm of Zephyr. I heard that he is only 17 years old. To be able to reach the realm of Zephyr at 17 years old, he's not any worse than the saint of a few sacred grounds. Many people were shocked. Seeing that Lin Tian was far away, these people turned to look at the dozens of corpses on the grass. They could not help but gasp. Speaking of which, why is the Shen family looking for trouble with Lin Tian? Is it also for the art of weapon control? Who knows? I have a feeling that the Shen family is going to be in big trouble. Some people murmured. After leaving the grassland, Lin Tian flew through the air. A cool breeze blew through the air, making him feel very comfortable. Not long after, he appeared in a place where many cultivators came and went. Haotian district, looking for some treasured arrows. This time, he did not hide anything and walked in directly. There were many cultivators in Haotian district. When they saw him, their expressions changed. Lin Tian? How dare he show up here so openly? Is he looking for death? Many people were surprised. Not long ago, Lin Tian had disguised himself and entered the vast Heaven district. He had destroyed one of the Bai family's strongholds in the vast Heaven district. It could be said that he was extremely daring. In addition, he had killed the 7 heroes of the Bai family and a group of Bai family's young experts. Now, the Bai family sent a new cultivator to Haotian district to take care of the strongholds that Lin Tian destroyed. At this time, Lin Tian swaggered into Haotian district without concealing himself. The cultivators were shocked. Lin Tian knew what these people were thinking. He did not say much and walked into a treasure armament pavilion. What do you need? A middle-aged man came up to him. In the next moment, the middle-aged man recognized Lin Tian, and his expression changed. Do you have arrows like this here? Lin Tian took out a black arrow and asked. The middle-aged man was shocked and hurriedly said, Sorry, we don't have it here. The treasure armament pavilion was run by a small sect that was not very powerful. The middle-aged man was the person in charge here and was at the 9th heaven of his mind. When the middle-aged man saw Lin Tian come here to buy arrows, he was shocked. This was someone that the ancient families wanted to kill. He did not dare to trade with such a person. If the Bai family was angered, the sect would be finished. Lin Tian's eyes narrowed slightly. He flashed past and came to the treasure armament rack. He saw that there were many golden arrows in a certain position on the rack. There were more than 70 of them. Isn't this? Lin Tianandao said. He took out a pure gold arrow and found that this arrow was made of black iron. Each arrow weighed more than 10 kilograms, and the tip of the arrow was very sharp. It was not inferior to the black arrows in his stone ring. This is... The middle-aged man hurriedly came up to him. What's the price? Lin Tian asked calmly. The middle-aged man trembled. Originally, he did not want to have anything to do with Lin Tian because of the Bai family. But now that Lin Tian saw the arrow, how could he not sell it? The Bai family was scary, but this person in front of him was also ruthless. He destroyed an ancient family's stronghold just like that. If he deliberately refused to sell and angered this person, he would be in big trouble. In the end, Lin Tian got more than 70 golden arrows and stepped out of the treasure armament pavilion. You finally dared to show up! A cold voice sounded. Outside the treasure armament pavilion, 5 middle-aged men blocked the way. Each of them was at the 4th heaven of the Zephyr realm. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.